Thursday, September 26, 2014. This is Sheila Zelinsky filling in for Doug and Joe again tonight, folks. You're about to hear 3 hours of incredible programming. You're listening to the one and only show where the news is presented in 3D. We look well behind the headlines, the bylines, the fog of disinformation, misinformation, and misdirection to bring you the news behind the news, and it's amazing what you're not being told on the 6 o'clock news. The broadcast time is each and every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Saturday, our weekend report with yours truly. The home base is hagmanandhagmann.com, and please bookmark weekendvigilante.com. And folks, just a reminder, our Wednesday call-in prayer line, please join me every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Pacific. That's 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm on Pacific, Doug's on Eastern. I always get that mixed up. But 7 p.m. Eastern Time, folks, the details are there on Sheila's Ministry tab on the menu on my website. We will be fasting and praying that day and every Wednesday. I hope you join me in that. It's very important. And hello to our listeners around the globe, my co-host tonight. And, of course, this has been really fun because, of course, Dave Hodges, I nicknamed him the instigator of the airwaves years ago, and he has certainly lived up to the reputation. You can find his handiwork at thecommonsenseshow.com. Dave and I have done a lot of shows together, and we research and cover topics that I really don't think anybody else touches with a 10-foot pole. He's a good friend to me. My fellow instigator, welcome tonight. Thank you for co-hosting.
Hi, Sheila. It's good to be back with you again.
It is very good to be back with you, Dave. This is going to be really the mother of all shows tonight. We're going to dive into the underbelly of some deep, dark things, the inner secrets of the Illuminati, Freemasonry, Satanism, magic and the occult, numbers and symbols, occult holidays, and other ominous things such as aliens, UFOs, and the Illuminati's plan for us. Tonight's guest is certainly no stranger to the dark side. He was raised in a family that was in the Illuminati since 1789. And for 20 years, he was trained and he attained the rank of Master Witch, a third-level Illuminati witch. It was there he learned their insidious inner workings and secrets. And ever since 1979, when he became a born-again Christian, he's had a bullseye on his back. He's been shot at, stabbed, poisoned, threatened, and yet he continues to expose the dark lords that rule this planet and their maniacal plans. He now devotes his life to traveling across the globe to expose and educate the public on the occult, speaking at seminars, lectures, conventions, churches, universities. He's trained therapists, clinicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, state police, and FBI in the areas of satanic ritual abuse, solving occult crimes. He's appeared on and consulted for The Oprah Winfrey Show, Geraldo Rivera, 2020 hard copy, Inside Edition, Unsolved Mysteries. You've heard him on Coast to Coast, Prophecy in the News with Gary Stearman, Raiders News Network. I mean, I could go on and on all night. He's known as the man who can fill in the blanks. Doc Marquis, welcome to the program, sir.
Sheila and Dave, how are you both doing?
Very well.
Good. This is a bit unusual. Usually I ask how Doug and Joe are doing.
Yes. Doug and Joe are well on their way to looking forward to their Monday night show. Doug's voice, I think, is getting a little bit better, so we want to be praying for him. So we're going to be getting into the underbelly of some very ominous things tonight. What I want to start out with here is sort of the topic aliens, fallen angels, or Antichrist with a question mark, because that is one of the series, Doc, that you cover. And, you know, this is really interesting. There's a meme that I saw that was pretty funny, and it was Giorgio Tsoukalos, the star everybody knows of Ancient Aliens, with a trademark wild hair. And the caption is, I don't know what the question is, but the answer is definitely aliens. And you and I have joked, Doc, about these shows being the most annoying shows we never miss.
Exactly.
He's really become kind of a minor pop culture icon. Remember the book Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Däniken? Well, Tsoukalos is the director now of Däniken Center for Ancient Astronaut Research. They appear on the Travel Channel, the History Channel, the Sci-Fi Channel. There's one that Al Gore should be on. The Sci-Fi Channel is an actual channel. The National Geographic, they're doing series In Search of Aliens. They've been on Ancient Aliens, and now they're on a new series on Open Mind TV. There's a good one. Well, here's what's not so funny. He spent the last 5 years really focusing on ancient astronaut theory, but here's a bizarre thing that he did, and I'm going somewhere with this. On one of the series, he was doing an ancient time traveler episode series and it was about Nazi occult interests with so-called wonder weapons and time travel. And he opens the show claiming that some diabolical-minded Nazi scientists were brought to the U.S. after World War II in a project called Kronos, the name for the Titan god of time, or maybe the personification of time would say it better. But he explains this Nazi-type time machine, and he goes on to link how aliens gave them their sinister knowledge. But here's what he did that I thought was very disturbing, Doc, and I'd like you to weigh in on this. He starts explicitly citing from a very anti-Semitic book banned in Europe, this eclectic mishmash of Sanskrit text and Tibetan text, and he starts quoting, of all people, good old Madame Blavatsky, the Secret Doctrines author, you know, the most Luciferian woman in the universe. And then he starts quoting Manly P. Hall. What is this wild-haired idiot doing quoting these two real sinister? I mean, Manly P. Hall wrote Secrets of All Ages, and as everybody knows, Helena Blavatsky, author of the, very secret doctrine book. It's deep, deep, dark occult knowledge. Do you think this is ignorance, or is he aware of what he's doing? Because I don't think you go around quoting those kind of things unless you kind of know what you're doing.
Well, something's going on here when someone like George, I can't remember his last name, and all his pals on that Ancient Alien show, you listen to them, mankind was a bunch of morons who couldn't do anything without the help of aliens. And when I hear that he opened such a show with, quoting from Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society and Manly P. Hall, who's considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Masonic writers of the Masonic literature ever. When I think of the books he referenced and their teachings, someone knows something somewhere, because those Manly P. Hall was in the Illuminati. This is information in the Illuminati that's common knowledge. And Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky had a direct link to the Thule Society, which was one of the three major occult societies in Nazi Germany. Those three being the Thule Society, the Vril, and, of course, the Illuminati, who were working through the Masonic lodges. Now, that tells me he knows something, but he's not quite sure what it is. So,
do you find it interesting that Helena Blavatsky is the one that said, isn't she the one that said Lucifer is the rightful god of this world?
Yes. She said Lucifer is the rightful god of this world and that the God of the Bible is our enemy. So this tells me a lot as far as what is the mindset of George, who would quote such a diabolical message. It doesn't go well.
Who's quoting
and
such
the more I watch
messages?
the shows, the more I see different, shall we say, hints of occultism popping up.
Right. And
I'm not surprised because, again, when we look into the question as far as the origins of aliens, UFOs, the little grays, things of that nature, it all began back in Nazi Germany under the auspices of the Illuminati through one of their greatest puppets in all history, that being Adolf Hitler.
Right. Well, there was some really hardcore Nazi scientists, too, that obviously, I said this on a show with Ellie Marzulli last Saturday. It's on record, Doc, that Werner von Braun, the card-carrying Nazi rocket scientist, he admits they got the technology from, as I'll use his words, outside sources. And Project Paperclip is a real interesting project. And actually, Dave Hodges is kind of a little bit knowledgeable on that. What is your take on this Operation Paperclip?
Well, my father, we believe, worked in that project, although they didn't call it Operation Paperclip. He had gone from installing nukes on aircraft carriers to being early retired in the Navy at full pension, so he could go to work at Martin Marietta in Littleton, Colorado, which is now Lockheed Martin, and his clientele, German scientists with one Russian, and they were reverse engineering high-level craft basically lighter than aircraft that could do vertical liftoffs and escape Earth's velocity. And that's what my dad was in charge of. And he never had a position on the alien influence, as Werner von Braun intimated, but he said the Germans believed it. He said, I asked him, I said, do you really think they're aliens? And he said, I can't say for sure. He said, but the people I worked with from Germany absolutely believed it.
Wow, isn't that interesting? Yeah, jump in there, Doc, please. I want you to give our listeners a real good overview, and then we're going to spring into Michael Aquino. This huckster is really newsworthy as well.
Well, Operation Paperclip, for those who don't know, was a secret project by the United States military, in which they took, now this is the story, in which they took supposedly 100 Nazi scientists and brought them over to America. Well, it wasn't 100. The records clearly point out it was a little bit more than 2,000 hardcore Nazi criminals. They were scientists. But, and this is in DVD 9 and 10. I always put the proof. I show the evidence. If we go by the military records, people like Werner von Braun and a number of others, by the United States records now, they were all labeled criminals. A number of them, and just to paraphrase this, basically in the instructions, shoot them on sight, arrest them, don't let them into the country, things like that. Yet, when Operation Paperclip came about and they were bringing these scientists over, if you look at the DVDs 9 and 10, you will see the new military records that says, oh, there's no evidence that this guy ever had anything to do with this or that or blah, 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 let him in. And yet, these hardcore Nazis were given citizenship, passports, houses, cars, and a paycheck to work on what was known as Operation Paperclip. Now, Operation Paperclip was simply a continuance of what the Nazis had been doing in under the Third Reich. They had actually been building, and again, I put in all the photos, the documents in DV 9 and 10, so you could see the evidence of what I'm about to say. They were the ones responsible for building what we nowadays call UFO flying crafts or alien vehicles or flying saucers, whatever you want to call them. And that's all we were doing. And it's from there that we really took a quantum leap as far as developing our own space program, which, as you well know, now is labeled NASA. Technically speaking, we didn't have an American space program. We had a Nazi one. It was all because of these hardcore German scientists that were brought over under Operation Paperclip. Now, as far as Project Kronos goes, that was not American. That was German. You see, there was a particular flying saucer, or UFO if you want to call it. It was known as Das Glocke.
The bell.
Das Glocke from the German, and I know because I used to live in Germany myself for years, means the bell.
Yeah.
Now, it really was a bell-shaped flying vehicle, and what's interesting about it is at the bottom of it, it was filled with liquid mercury. Now, anyone can tell you that liquid mercury, if sped up quick enough, it projects a huge electromagnetic field. Now, according to the theories of the documents, the German documents, this vehicle was capable of not only incredible speeds, and according to Army newspapers, these vehicles that the Nazis had been creating were capable of flying up to 10,000 miles per hour now. And back then, our fastest flying vehicle, I believe, was just a bit over 600 miles an hour. And towards the end, when the Nazis were on the verge of utter defeat, I can't remember the name of the general in charge of the program, but the story goes he took one of the two flying vehicles, Daskalaka, and escaped. And he's never been seen again. And interesting enough, a number of years later, there was a second Daskalaka that was found in America shortly after the Roswell incident. This one had crashed. So,
wow. Well, let's start with
the whole of it.
Yeah.
The whole of that project was supposed to have been called Kronos, because Kronos, according to Greek mythology, was one of the ancient titans, and he fathered the three main gods of Greek mythology, that being Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. And Zeus became the head of the pantheon because, aside from his supposed gift of having the seven thunderbolts, he also inherited the gift of being able to control time by his father, Kronos. And since it was believed that the bell, or Daskalaka, it was believed it was capable of actually passing through time and space itself.
Well, what's really fascinating about that is when I think of that, this time traveling, I think of some of the information they give out, of course, all across the television on UFOs. But I want to start out with Kenneth Arnold. He was very reputable and really reputed aviator. He had thousands of hours of flying, and sort of this infamous encounter with it's been quoted even as 1,700-mile-an-hour flying saucer. I mean, they didn't have any kind of technologies back in the 40s, and that really did start a firestorm of controversy. And to paraphrase his own words, this is back in the 40s. They were not made on this planet, he said. I want you to really get into that because, I mean, UFOs have not just been a part of American history, but they've been part of different events and various forms and nations throughout the world in petroglyphs and cave paintings. Some dating back to 1700 BC. So I want you to give everybody a real handle on the UFO issue.
Well, Kenneth Arnold was a very reputed aviator, and his reputation was beyond question. However, what people fail to realize when they consider the Kenneth Arnold story is that, among other things, Kenneth Arnold had seen these flying vehicles from a distance of 20 miles. He was 20 miles away when he had seen these flying discs flying over near Mount Rainier in Washington. And according to him, they would have been flying somewhere around the speed you said, because as an aviator, he could measure how long it would take to go from point A to point B, and when he saw them flying from one mountain range to another, he was able to gauge their speed. Now, he did say, accordingly, that this was nothing he had known that we had, and that they had to have been from outer space or something like that. But his statement was, he didn't know that we had done it. Well, that's true. He didn't know of anything that we had capable of flying at such speeds, because this was top secret. This was back in, that was 47, what was that? Yeah, right around 1947 is when this incident had happened. And at that point, we had already been working on Project Paperclip for 2 years. What he had seen, and when we take a comparison of what he had drawn and compare it to known flying saucers that the German, under the Third Reich, had already had created, it matches up. What Kenneth Arnold had seen was simply an extension of what the Nazis had been working on, but now it was in the United States military hands under Project Blue Book.
Interesting. Well, we know that even the P-80, there was only, I think, on record, a 647-mile-an-hour, jet propulsion system was about the max, and that's according to colonels on record.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's if I remember. It was just, it had to have been because it was just below the, what is that? The speed of sound barrier.
Yeah, jump in on that, Dave. Well, what I would like to address, or have you address, is at the end of the war, we started suffering horrific losses with our B-17s because our protective fighter planes couldn't combat the jets that were in the air, and the technology they were displaying was a whole generation or greater even than what we had. And what I'm wondering, too, is why Germany did not deploy this technology as weapons and reverse the course of the war.
What weapons?
Well, if they had things like a Nazi bell, if they had the ability to create craft that could travel 10,000 miles an hour, if they had the ability to develop weapon systems that were commensurate of the technology, you think they would have made the American military crumble?
Well, that's just it. You see, you would think that should have happened, and I agree with you. Had they actually gone full-blown with this, it would have. But something had happened. For some reason, Adolf Hitler did not go with this program. He put a complete axe on this project and instead went with the B-2 rockets. That's where he stopped the funding and went with the intercontinental ballistic missiles. He thought that would be the way of bringing the rest of Europe and America down.
Well, if they would develop their uranium club to bring nuclear weapons into fruition, that would have been the way to go.
Well, exactly. And this, again, is one of the mysteries about what had happened, because had he fully gone, just put all of Nazi Germany's efforts into uranium enrichment and developing the atomic bomb, which they were, and they were ahead of us at that time, I think the world right now would be speaking German.
Well, what I would like to interject is, think about this. At the time, the G-force for human pilots, they couldn't make turns like they, you got to remember Kenneth Arnold was a very reputed aviator. He was known to be very reliable, very credible, upstanding character. How do human pilots, I think 6 Gs is about the max. That is unbelievable that in the 1940s they had this kind of technology in these saucers. The Chicago Tribune called it saucers. All the media at the time was calling it these thin-disked saucers. It's incredible the kind of technology they had in the 40s.
Yes, and you see, but as far as the G-force factor goes, it's actually over 10. I think the max limit is 12 because they have these special suits that they've made for the pilots that can withstand the G-forces up to that limit.
So it was 10 then?
It was at least 10. I believe it's up to 12 now. But the whole mystery about this is what Colonel Arnold had seen. And if we go by what he had drawn and compare it to what the Nazis had already built, it was simply a mistaken identity of what's known as the Horton Ho flying vehicle or flying saucer, whatever you want to call it. It's a dead ringer for it.
Well, it was interesting that Phoenix, Arizona papers and, like I said, the Chicago Tribune, the Portland, Oregon Times, whatever that one, the Associated Press, they were really spinning this very interesting. And then there was a lot of belief that they had a secret fleet of military vehicles that could actually go 1,700 miles an hour. This was back in 1947, so it's just interesting that, the FBI and the military were brushing this off.
Well, yes, because they had to brush it off because of Operation Paperclip. They had to. Let's face it. how many secrets does our government hold to this very day that they say, oh, this never happened? I mean, that's like trying to say that it was a YouTube video that caused the Benghazi incident.
Well, here's a question that, of course, I got emailed in from a listener, is that apparently, now I guess I wanted to get your take on this for the record. Do you believe that UFOs or flying saucers, I mean, of course, we know there's all these flying objects around. I mean, I guess it's pretty apparent that you do believe this is a secret military experiment, really, and that this is kind of a guise for people to believe there really is these little aliens running around, that the nice benevolent aliens, by the way. Yeah, wink, wink.
Well, yes, of course it is. It's part of a 75-year-old plan that the Illuminati started back in the early 30s. And it's been going on ever since. As it says, it's 75 years old, and it was only a number of years ago that they finally had everything in place, through the UFOs, through the so-called World of Grays, and all this other stuff, to where they can cover up the one and only one event that they fear more than anything else, and that being the rapture.
The rapture, interesting. Well, of course,
think about this. Think about this. You're supposed to be the most powerful group of Luciferian witches on the face of the earth, millions of followers. You have countless money at your feet. You worship Lucifer. You're supposed to be the all-powerful people. Yet, how do you explain the sudden vanishing of tens of millions of people around the world? How would you explain all the little babies in the nurseries and hospitals around the world who suddenly vanish? How do you explain away all the old people in the nursing homes and such? How do we explain all this away? What if you don't call it the rapture? What if you call it an alien visitation? Think about this for a second. What if one day the rapture hits? Lord willing, it'll be short. It'll be shortly soon, and all that happens. Well, give it about a couple of days, maybe a week later, you're going to hear a worldwide announcement that NASA, through their telescopes, have seen alien flying saucers, motherships, heading towards Earth. Well, give it about another week, maybe 2 weeks.
Well, let's build a bit of a timeline, Doc, on UFO sightings, because one of the things that, of course, one of the question that's begged here is, you know, we have cave paintings and petroglyphs that date back to 2700 BC and 1700 BC, 700 BC. I mean, Mary was drawn with a really interesting picture at Mary at the tomb. There's ancient Indians in the Southwest. There's so many different depictions of these flying disc-shaped objects that go back a long, long time. So how would we springboard from your idea that you're building into these?
It's easy. You see, if we look at the Vril Society of Nazi Germany, the Vril Society was made up mainly of female psychics who claimed that they were in contact with superior beings in the Aldebaran system. And according to these beings, who had been contacted by these ladies, supposedly through psychic powers now, they were instructed to go out into the world and find the clues that they left behind of their existence and that they had visited the Earth. You see, the ultimate goal was to achieve space flight so that they could reach this advanced civilization in the Aldebaran system and prove themselves worthy to have this advanced technology. And this is why Adolf Hitler had ordered hundreds and hundreds of archaeological diggings around the world because they were looking for this so-called clues of these advanced beings left behind. And when they came across these certain petroglyphs, geoglyphs, ancient paintings, tapestries, and they saw what they thought were to be the so-called flying vehicles, the Nazi scientists then started building the UFOs after the similitude of what had been discovered through the archaeologists. A number of the vehicles they had built would have been like the Brill flying saucer, the Hannibal flying saucer. As I said, they had the Horton Who. They had lenticular flying vehicles. All these were shaped, excuse me, were built and shaped after what supposedly the archaeologists were claiming were the missing clues from the Aldebaran system that was supposed to have been the advanced technology that they were looking for all along.
Right. So what do you think the real crucial piece in all that is? I mean, you've got this UFO battle clearly with, this over Nuremberg, Germany. There's pictures from Hamburg. You've got a lot of these galactic UFO battles. The French coin that looks like the saucer-shaped UFO that has I think it was printed around 1680. It's got opportunist at us with the 17th century pictures of, the baptism and the crucifixion of Christ. There's UFOs in the background, Windsor Castle, Japan. I could go on and on. What do you think the significance is of these UFO sightings, appearances? What did our ancient forefathers really see there?
Well, I don't think that they had seen any sort of flying vehicles, because if you look at enough of them, there's so many variations that it would be ridiculous to think that, 1,500 to 2,000 different alien civilizations had visited, Earth in the past. And that's an outrageous amount of number. No, I cannot accept, simply because it doesn't make sense, that many civilizations had visited us in the past. Now, exactly what had they seen? Some of them are so ancient, I don't think we'll ever know. But when I consider a lot of the photographic evidence, and I do mean photographic evidence, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's in DVDs 9 and 10, where they show these so-called flying saucers. If these are supposed to be some sort of super advanced technological flying machines from an ancient advanced civilization hundreds and thousands of light years away from the Earth, why are they leaving fuselage trails behind them? Think about that. An airplane leaves fuselage or fuel trails. You see, the white puffy smoke in the clouds. And this time I'm not talking about chemtrails. We're talking about something else here. The fuel that comes out of a jet, or a plane, forms white puffy trails. So, again, if these are those super advanced technological machines from way, way beyond, why are they leaving fuel trails? That doesn't make sense, because if these vehicles, let's just say if it's even 1 light year away from us, it is a matter at this point of what's known as mass ratio. The vehicle itself could not carry enough solid rocket propellant within its size to carry it even 1 light year. So it cannot be some sort of super advanced technological vehicle from way, way, way in outer space. No, it is a man-made flying vehicle. The evidence itself says that's fuselage. That cannot be a so-called alien flying vehicle.
Well, it's interesting. So many people always talk about the Sumerian culture, the fallen angels, AKA demons. What's your take on the Anunnaki, for the record, for people?
Well, okay. The Anunnaki myth came about because, and I can't think of the person's name, who translated the ancient Sumerian tablets or texts according to the way he saw it. He was not a scholar. He was not learned in the ancient linguistics of the Sumerians. Now, when you go to those who can read, write the ancient Sumerian language, they will tell you a different story. But if you go by what that guy had stated, he said that there was supposed to have been an ancient race known as the Anunnaki who lived on the 10th planet in our solar system known as Nibiru, and that Nibiru has such a gigantic elliptic course between us and the sun that we can't see it when it's at its furthest point, and that it does come close enough to the Earth every 3,600 years, and that on one of those cycles, the Anunnaki, when they got close enough to the Earth, got into their so-called flying saucers, landed on the Earth, enslaved mankind so that mankind could dig up all the gold that was needed so that the Anunnaki could take it, return back to Nibiru, and clean up their planet and the atmosphere because it looks like they were in some sort of biological trouble themselves. And that because the Anunnaki decided man as he was not good enough to turn into a slave race, they introduced part of their DNA into mankind, and that we supposedly developed into who and what we are now because of alien DNA.
Interesting. Well, I just want to let our listeners know we are going to totally open up the phone lines as well, so just if anybody's listening in later in the program, you can press 1 and, go ahead and ask Doc to fill in the blank on pretty much any topic from the Illuminati to Satanism to Freemasonry to aliens, UFOs, you name it. Now, springboarding a little bit into the Illuminati, you just said in a really interesting statement, what really is the plan of the Illuminati for mankind?
Well, the eventual goal, and it's been repeated throughout the existence of the Illuminati themselves, is to create what they call the Novus Ordo Seclorum, or translated from the Latin, the New World Order. Now, if we go by, about 30-something years ago, a lot of people think George Bush, when he was standing in front of Congress and he was calling for a New World Order, well, they thought he came up with some sort of new catchphrase. And after him, it was the Prime Minister of Great Britain who called for a New World Order, then Pope John Paul II, then the Russian Premier. But for all those people who thought that this was some sort of new catchphrase, they're wrong. One of the first people who ever called for a New World Order would have been Adolf Hitler. But even then, we can go further back into other dictators of the Illuminati, such as Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, and others of those day and age who were also calling for a New World Order before Adolf Hitler. You see, this is, as I said, one of the 7 major, the Illuminati has a 7-part plan in order to set up their New World Order. And the seventh and the last part of their plan calls for the creation of a New World Order. This is where it all comes from, and these are the goals of the Illuminati.
Well, let's springboard. So in the Dictators Illuminati, and by the way, I just wanted to tell you this, Doc, that I would really like to read this out. It's a very good endorsement. Now, here it is. Absolutely brilliant. In Dictators Illuminati Part 13 in the Six to the Illuminati series, Doc Marquis does an outstanding and unparalleled job using the Illuminati 7-part plan as a backdrop to explain how world dictators, past and present, have been used to bring us to the point in history, like a seasoned trial lawyer presenting his case before a grand jury. Doc Marquis methodically explains in compelling, convincing, and exquisite detail where we are in history, how we've arrived here, and what the future holds with the conspiracy of the Illuminati. If you want to understand real-world history, this scholarly presentation in both quality and substance is required viewing if you want to understand the big picture and the vastness of the conspiracy you never knew existed. The entire series is required viewing. This is by far the most informative presentation on this subject that I've ever viewed, and that comes from a multi-state licensed investigator called Douglas Hagmann. So you got a very, very nice, obviously.
Oh, my
nice
goodness. You know what? I've been waiting for Doug to send me that for ages.
Well, and you got a really nice little spiel from Gary Stearman and you know, the boys over at Prophecy in the News, which excitingly are now moving over to Skywatch TV with Tom Horn. They really endorsed your work as well.
Oh, that's very kind of them.
So speaking of the Illuminati and speaking of course, the dictators of the Illuminati, so in that series, really walk people through the importance of, you know, because people say, well, you know, Stalin, Mao Zedong, all these ruthless dictators throughout the ages, even springboarding into Hitler, you know, Mussolini, all these dictators. How is that relevant today of what we're seeing on the geopolitical stage today with Obama?
Well, it goes back to what I tell everyone. If you want to understand the present, you have to go into the past so you can understand the future. In order to understand what's going on nowadays, and let me tell you, Sheila, ever since Obama had usurped the White House, for almost 5.5 years now, people have been asking me what's going on. This makes no sense. He's destroying America. You know, it seems completely topsy-turvy to them. But the thing is, it really makes perfect sense if you understand the inner workings and the plans of the Illuminati. Using that 7-part plan, Stalin created, he's credited with started, you know, socialism, but some people would say communism in communist Russia. But that's not true. You compare the plans and the belief system of the Illuminati, all it is communism by another word. After him, it was, who am I thinking of? Lenin, who actually, I should say, started supposedly socialism and communism in Russia. And then after him, it went to Stalin. But you see, Lenin was a socialist. Stalin was a communist. Mao Zedong was a communist. Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini were both fascists. And yet, the 7-part plan of the Order of the Illuminati to create a new world order fits in perfectly with each of those governments. Now, if you bring that up to modern day under the present administration, and we're supposed to be a republic, not a democracy, ladies and gentlemen. The Constitution is still in force, and according to the Constitution, we are a republic. That is being used absolutely perfectly once again in our system of government to where they are systematically destroying us piece by piece by piece. And interesting enough, for those of you who have lived long enough, see, I was raised in the 50s, and I remember how different things were then and how people actually had faith and trust in our government back then compared to now. You see, the plans are still in force, and for anyone who doubts nothing's going on in America, let me ask you this question. If you sincerely believe that there is absolutely no conspiracy going on here in America right now, let me ask this question. Why isn't there? With everything going on, why isn't there a conspiracy going on then?
Well, conspiracy means 2 or more people are plotting something evil, so that's never happened, right? Wink, wink.
Well, of course, you know, let's say Benghazi, let's say Fast and Furious. Oh my goodness, let's just say what's going on at the border between the United States of America and Mexico right now. Let's say ISIS or ISIL, whichever one's going to make you feel fuzzy-wuzzy when you go to bed at night, and all these other things.
Well, Dave Hodges has covered a lot about Benghazi, Fast and Furious, and we just found out last night, didn't we, Dave? Good old Eric Holder is just jumped off a politically sinking ship which is really interesting. Dave, weigh in on that, and then I want to get your take on that too as well, Doc.
Okay.
Dave Hodges, are you still there?
Dave?
Well, go ahead, Doc. What's your take on Eric Holder's
Well, isn't it interesting how now of all times he decides to jump ship? Because he was supposed to, I understand, well, from what I understand, he's supposed to still be there until right after the elections. And he's supposed to represent the highest law system, in the United States. In other words, you just keep the law as is. You go by the law. And all he ever did was politicize his office, and always in favor of whatever Barack Obama had viewed.
Well, it was actually Doc, I got to throw this in. It was actually nauseating to watch how the media was spinning it yesterday. I watched, I had hundreds of people emailing me things during the show, and it was nauseating to listen to that. It was really quite hideous
I couldn't
to
imagine,
hear.
because that guy is just a slime bag, as far as I see it. He went after regular American citizens who had done nothing, but he decided to harass them, just like the Internal Revenue Service decided to harass American citizens because they had their own political views that did not line up or agree with the agenda of the Obama administration.
Yeah, Eric the gun runner Holder, isn't that just pathetic? Well, I know that...
And the thing is, let's face it, he's running, I think, right now because... for the first time, the federal courts have ordered, this is actually ordered now, all the documents pertaining to Fast and Furious and the reasoning. They want to know why such and such was done, on what time, what was Eric Holder's involvement in all this, what was his reasoning and everything. It's been demanded. And heaven help whoever's there now, if they don't turn over those pages, because someone, if I'm reading the documents correctly, someone will end up in prison for contempt of court this time around. I mean, and let's consider how quickly Lois Lerner, jumped the ship when she found out she was going to be indicted by Congress. I mean, these people... It's interesting now that the information's out and Congress is demanding answer. It's interesting how all these people are now scurrying about, as you said, as rats leaving a sinking ship. Because as far as I can tell at this point, they're all as guilty as can be.
Well, they're guilty, all right. And speaking of complete unscrupulous charlatans, the three things that really give the Illuminati power is money, politics, and religion. That lines up with, prophecy of Revelations and others. Get into who are the front men of the Illuminati. Explain that to our listeners.
Well, the front men, as I call them, were the six major front organizations started by the Illuminati to perpetuate their plans for a New World Order. Now, the very first, if you want to call it, front organization of the Illuminati came right after World War I, and that's because at that point, the Earth became a much smaller place. Planes had been developed. You no longer had to go from one place to another, from one continent to another if you want, just using steamship or not. And in order to keep up with what they knew was going to be a change in global society, the Illuminati started creating these international groups. The first one being the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is located at Chatham House in England, in London. Shortly after that, what's become known as the sister organization was the Council on Foreign Relations. Then, of course, we have the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, the United Nations, and Oh, what's the other one I'm forgetting?
So we've got the United Nations, Council of Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, Chatham House.
The Club of Rome, that's it, right.
Club of Rome, yeah.
Now, if you compare all of their, if you want to call them teachings, and how all the members are interconnected, you will find out that the members, as I said, line up. They're interconnected. The teachings all line up, with one group is saying on this side of the world what this one is saying here, so on and so forth. And even more interesting, when the United Nations was created, I think it was 50 or 60-something representatives who represent the United States of America, and all of them came from the Council on Foreign Relations.
Interesting. Isn't that an interesting connection, hey?
Oh, yeah. Well, as I said, you can, again, if people would want to view that DVD, I believe that's DVD 3 in the series. It's called Frontmen of the Illuminati. I will conclusively prove once and for all just what's going on with all those groups, because they were all started by the Illuminati. They are still being funded using Illuminati money, and you will find out the vast majority of these people are all members of the Illuminati.
Well, get into the Luciferian leaders of history for us.
How back do we go?
As far as you want.
Let's look at any of the dictators. Most of them were either puppets or members of the Illuminati.
So Madame Blavatsky, I'm sure, the secret doctrine, Luciferian witch, I'm sure she is in that.
No, she was not a member of the Illuminati.
Oh,
yeah, believe it or not, she wasn't.
Well, then explain the difference.
Manly P. Hall was, but not Madame Blavatsky.
Well, explain the difference.
She was used by them, but that's it.
Okay, well then the difference between the Illuminati and these Luciferians. Explain that then.
Well, the Illuminati are the Luciferians. You see, the form of religion of the Illuminati is known as Luciferian witchcraft. They worship Lucifer. Now, for a lot of people who may be new to the show or who've never heard this, according to the belief system of the Illuminati, Satan is just a boogeyman created by the Christians to keep the kids in line. It is believed by the people in the Illuminati that in the beginning God was equal to Lucifer in all things. However, as the millenniums rolled by, it was Lucifer who became, it was God who became jealous of Lucifer's equality and had him and his followers thrown out of heaven. Right now, the Illuminati are convinced that they are summoning up enough of the force so that at the end of the Battle of Armageddon, they're going to kill God and the Holy Spirit and put Lucifer on the throne where they feel he rightfully belongs. And right now, Christ is supposed to be chained to a huge boulder in hell because he betrayed the cause.
Wow, that really is the Cold Notes version, isn't it? Well, and again, I just want to remind people in about 7 minutes when we go to the top of the hour break, we're going to open up the phone lines wide open, and of course, the number, as everyone knows. If you click on weekendvigilantefolks.com, there's the Listen Live button. It tells you the number for the show there. It's you got to dial one first. It's 661-244-9839, I believe that number is. I just got a little message at the studio. I think we lost Dave Hodges, just so you know. Now, I want you to talk about how the entire earth handed to the Antichrist through the occult, the biggest paradigm shift. I want you to get into that a little bit.
Oh, okay. We've got how many minutes till the top of the hour?
Till the top of the break, we have about 6 minutes, but we can come back and continue on.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick then.
Well, no, you can have all the time you want to develop that idea.
Okay, well, going by what the prophecies in the Bible states in Revelation 18:23b, it tells us that the entire world is going to be handed over to the Antichrist through the occult. Now, that means in order for that to happen, for the world, literally to hand over, for the occult to hand over everything over to the Antichrist, that means right now there has to be a measurable growth in the occult religions and indoctrinations and initiations greater now than in all of recorded human history. And if we go by the figures right now, in America, according to, I believe it was the Council of World Churches, there's approximately 1 million people that's being initiated into various occult groups in America right now every year. So we see a resurgence of the occult religion in a way that's never happened in all of history. But this came about only because of a plan the Illuminati had started back in the 60s. You see, the Illuminati had been trying to get their own people into the various branches of the United States Armed Forces, but and get them to be recognized under chaplain status. But, whether that was the age of Aquarius or not, the military was not going to accept a witch, a Satanist, or who have you, as a chaplain. It wasn't going to happen.
Right. So
the Illuminati, they weren't going to be deterred from this. And this is where I came in also. You see, the Illuminati ordered literally thousands of us, and I was one of them, into the United States Armed Forces, and we were to use a 3-part plan as an attack. This 3-part plan, basically, the first part of that plan, any military base we were assigned to, we were to set up a fully operative coven. Second, whatever base, we were at, we were to recruit key members of the military into those covens. This way, whatever they had access to, we now had access to. And the third and last part of that plan was to ensure that the major occult religions would receive federal recognition and status. Now, if anyone wants to check the figures on this, you're more than happy to, because I believe it's it should be the 1978 Army Chaplain's Handbook on Religious Requirements, in which it was listed for the very first time in military history. You now have witchcraft, Satanism, and other occult religions listed in the Army Chaplain's Handbook. They have federal recognition and status, and they can't be touched by the law.
Well, don't you find it fascinating that Michael Aquino was the head of the U.S. military psyops, and he was a self-proclaimed Satanist, and not only that, he really started the Temple of Set, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but that's a different story. You see, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino was one of the top people in the First Church of Satan, which was started by Anton Jean de LaVey. According to Aquino, he supposedly had a vision by Set, who he claims Satan comes from. He believes it's from the Egyptian god known as Set that he says the Christian version of Satan came from. We know that's hogwash, but, we're talking Aquino now. And Aquino became the head of the military operation known as PSYOPS, or PSYCOR.
Right.
And this is where they've been developing new methods and such to brainwash and program people through. Aquino was also in major trouble at the Presidio base because, towards the end we find out that there was approximately 60 children that had identified him and his wife and certain other people on that military base that had been ritualistically, and I mean through the occult, abusing these children and using them for certain occult ceremonies, so on and so forth.
Was that the Presidio base?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Now, and you have to understand that places like the Presidio have old nuclear bunkers and things like that was built during, World War II. So a lot of these bases have these underground places that you can do a lot of things in. Well, anyway.
Hold that thought, Doc, because we're going to quickly, of course, go to a break. And don't go anywhere, folks, because we have a lot more to get into, and we have a wall of calls already, so we're going to take your phone. Folks, welcome back to Hour 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm your host tonight, Sheila Zielinski, filling in for Doug and Joe. And what a program it is, folks. We have Doc Markey on with us. And like I said, we're getting delving into the real underbelly of the dark world. It's things that go bump in the night and everything else. It really is one interesting show that we have tonight, folks. And I'm just going to open up the phone lines real soon. Doc, I want you to, though, this really interesting kind of springboarding into something different. I found this fascinating that years and years ago, I think it was back in the early 80s, there was an Illuminati card set that circulated. It was at grocery stores and everywhere else. And what was fascinating is there was a picture on one of these cards. Well, there's several pictures that are very insidious, but there's a picture of two towers, and right in the exact pinpoint precision of where it would happen in 9/11, there was a big cloud of smoke. I mean, it was so interesting. Do you remember this deck of cards? And if so, what was that all about?
Oh, if anyone has listened to Doug and Joe's show for any time, they know I've covered this, but let's do this again for the new listeners just in case. It was back in 1982, between 1982 through 1995, there was a 13-year printing, and it's no accident that it was 13 years, of a 7-set deck of cards, 7 different sets, and they were known as the Illuminati New World Order playing cards. Now, these were supposed to be to, shall we say, outsiders, just regular, playing cards like, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Pokemon, things along that line. But what they didn't know, the outsiders, was those cards contain the actual plans of a number of future events the Illuminati had already designated was going to happen. Now, those cards were designed in such a way that only members of the Illuminati would know what those plans would really consist of and what was going to happen. Among other things, and what you were just describing, Sheila, was 9/11, where, according to the cards, the Twin Towers would be hit. And if you look at that card in particular, and I've got all these cards in DVD 1 and I think DVD 6. I use quite a number of them, but the ones pertaining to 9/11 definitely in DVD 1, beyond a shadow of a doubt. You will see by the card where the Twin Towers would be hit. And if we go by the photos of where the plane had hit, the actual Twin Tower, Tower 1, it was the exact spot as foreshadowed on that Illuminati card. Plus, the Pentagon, if we go by the Pentagon card in the Illuminati, the first edition, the Pentagon was also struck. And interesting enough, it doesn't explain in the card what hit it. And to this very day, no one knows supposedly what hit it. Now, they say it's a plane, one of those, a 747 that was supposed to have hit it. Well, if anyone ever measured the wingspan of a 747, it's almost 200 feet long. There was no 200-foot-long hole in the Pentagon building. I have a number of friends who were reporters during that time. That was there shortly after the incident happened, and every single one of them have told me to this very day that there was no plane wreckage. Nothing. And if there was, supposedly, if it was done by a plane, where's the black box?
Where is that notorious black box? Well, it's just so interesting that the tentacles of the symbolism, the Kabbalah, the ancient patterns, the numbers, the letter, it's everywhere in our society. This really dark, practices. There's demon summoning all the time, these invocations. Look at I think about all these ceremonies, whether it's a big football halftime show or whether it's the Olympics. It's always these really very ominous and very nefarious, invocations and summoning demons. It's just so fascinating that stuff is woven into almost everything we see. Look at the layout of Washington. I want you to get into that a little bit, and then I'm going to start taking some callers. And like I said, anybody that has questions tonight, to Mr. Fill-in-the-Blanks, Doc Marquis, you will be able to ask whatever questions on your mind, folks. So we want to hear from you. It's your chance. So get into that for us, because numerology and the geometria, it's just very interesting how this all fits in together.
Well, you see, the reason you see so much occult symbolism, numerological and geometric patterns is because the Illuminati always mark their territory. Beyond any shadow of a doubt, they will mark it. If it belongs to them, I guarantee you there's something there that will tell you it is, if you know what you're looking for. Going by what you just stated, well, the layout, the pattern of Washington, D.C. is made up of Illuminati and Masonic symbols. I'm talking about, I've taken just regular tourist map, and you could just walk down the streets of Washington, D.C. and buy the tourist maps I have purchased in the past. And I will show you exactly how Washington, D.C. is laid out using these Illuminati and Masonic occult symbols. Now, here's an interesting question for you. By the way, that section of Washington, D.C., between the Capitol and the White House, that's known as the Mall. That is, by all understanding, the most politically influential place in the world. Now, have you ever seen, Sheila, a surveyor's map?
I have. I'm very familiar with surveyor's maps, yes.
Right, and they're usually made up of oblongs or squares that says something like Lot 88 or Lot 127,
right.
Things like that. Well, that section of the mall, as I said, that's from the Capitol to the White House itself, that entire section is Lot 666.
Interesting. Well, what's really fascinating is it Kissinger or Rockefeller that just above in the little neon signs, what is his address?
It's the Tishman Building. At the Rockefeller Center, the Tishman Building, unlike other buildings in Washington, D.C., in New York City, I know because I lived in New York City for a while. If you look at the buildings, most of the buildings will have the address either directly above the storefront door or on the right-hand side of the building, and it's usually about 10 feet off the ground. Well, at the Rockefeller Center, there's an exception. It's known as the Tishman Building. If you look all the way up to the top, ladies and gentlemen, on the right-hand side, you will see in 3 bold red, and it's bold red because they're made up of neon lights, so you can see it at nighttime also. Bold red, 3 numbers that are 666.
Geez, not too in our face. Well, do you find it interesting that Walt Disney's new logo has really, this is not just my imagination. Is it my imagination, or do I clearly see 3 6s in their new logo?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But there is more symbolism in Disney movies and films than people realize. I did a whole presentation just on this alone for the Dene Baptist Church in Waterflow, New Mexico, and that would be Pastor Curtis Harvey. And I'll tell you this much, those people were absolutely floored once they saw all the symbolism and such that I showed to the folks there that comes straight from the Disney studios.
Well, that's very fascinating, and there's such indoctrination for our kids. I mean, my son actually showed me an episode of SpongeBob where they had the all-seeing eye. Bart Simpson had the Twin Towers. It's in the Looney Tunes. It's in Mickey Mouse. It's in everything nowadays. But anyway, we're going to open up and take some calls right now. Like I said, anything on your mind, ask Doc. So we're going to start with area code 304. Welcome to the program tonight. What is your question? Area code 304, you are live.
The Illuminati, I hope you can hear me okay. Is that ancient bloodlines, and by your understanding, where does bloodline come from?
Okay, I better explain the origins. Okay, back in 1773, there was a man known as Dr. Adam Weishaupt who was given the chair of the professorship of Jewish canon law at the University of Ingolstadt in Bavaria, Germany. Now, Weishaupt, at the time, was also a Jesuit priest, but the same year he became he was given the chair of the professorship of Jewish canon law. Now, understand, he was only 25 when this happened, and to become the head of any department, you usually are well in your 50s, if not 60s. But Weishaupt was one of those rare geniuses. You get once or twice in a generation, just like in the last generation we would have had, like Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla. That would have been the two major geniuses of the last generation. Well, Weishaupt was one of those rare geniuses. And this man could speak, read, and fluently write 12 different languages, and I'm not even counting the occult ones yet. And at the time, he was given the chair of the professorship. The Pope at the time, I want to say that was Pope Clement III, if I recall, he disbanded the Order of the Jesuits because there was three common complaints that was coming from all the monarchs throughout Europe. The three complaints were that the Jesuits were constantly interfering in the affairs of state, whatever country that was. That if they were really a priestly class, how is it they have so much wealth? And third, the one thing that annoyed most of the monarchs back then was that the Jesuits answered to absolutely no one, not even the law of the land. They answered only and only to the Pope. Well, those monarchs had finally had it with the Jesuit order, and even before the Pope had issued this decree which disbanded them, most of those nations had already started throwing the Jesuits out of their countries and said, don't return. Well, the Pope wasn't going to lose Catholic Europe back then, so he disbanded the Jesuit order, which means at the same time, Dr. Adam Weishaupt became a defrocked Jesuit priest. Well, he wasn't going to stand for it. Now, at the same time, in that year, 1773, a man known as Meyer Amschel Bauer, who would later change his family's last name to Rothschild, had been watching and studying this educator. One night, Weishaupt was invited over to Bauer's mansion, and Meyer Amschel had also invited at the same time 12 of his most financially influential friends, and basically told Weishaupt, and I'm just paraphrasing the whole of the event now, basically they told Weishaupt, we know you have the occult genius and knowledge to put it together. We've got the money. You do it, we'll back it. And so 3 years later, Weishaupt had done what no one in history had been able to do before. He actualized and created the Order of the Illuminati. Now, this had been attempted before because you can trace the entire belief system of the Order of the Illuminati to ancient Babylon itself, but no one had been able to actualize it. And once it had, it's been around since its founding date, May 1st, 1776.
So, I mean, I think it's very clear also that a lot of the mainstream media articles will put out that the Illuminati was really found in 1776, but it's really the Bavarian chapter, wasn't it?
Well, some people will call it the Bavarian Order of the Illuminati because it was founded in Bavaria, Germany. But it's called the Order of the Illuminati, the proper name. It was called the Perfectibilist originally, but it was changed shortly thereafter into the Order of the Illuminati.
Well, it's been said that the Rothschilds traced their lineage right back to Nimrodian times in antiquity, which is very fascinating. Okay, well, we got a wall of calls here. I'm going to take area code 780. Welcome to the program tonight. What is your comment or question?
Hi, Sheila, and hi, Doc. Doc, you are the encyclopedia of the Illuminati, and thank you so much for all your dedicated work and your research.
Love that.
Well, I only know what I know was because I was raised in it.
Yes, and that's why you are the man. A quick question, and I'll take it off air so everybody else can get on. As Satan's goal is a one-world government, a one-world currency, and a one-world religion, can you explain to us how the current and future events will fulfill those agendas? Thank you very much.
Well, it's very easily done. You see, how they're controlling the money was through the illegal system known as the Federal Reserve System. And this is the reason why Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. It wasn't assassinated because of his stance as far as freeing the slaves back then. It was because he was always blocking the Federal Reserve System from coming into America. Finally, once he became, he was in his second term, they said, we've just got to get rid of this guy or we'll get nowhere. And that's exactly what they did. They'll murder anyone who tries to stop the Federal Reserve System, no matter what country it is. And if you don't believe me, let's go up ahead of time, another 100 years, and see what they did to John F. Kennedy. He was assassinated for the same reason. He was actually going to put us back on the gold and silver
standard. Yeah.
They weren't going to allow it. You see, what most people don't realize is, let's use this example. It takes $10,000 to print $1 million bills. Okay, and mind you, this is not real money per se because nothing's backing it up. Yet, the Federal Reserve spent $10,000 and they just made a $990,000 profit by making illegal money, and we have to pay taxes on that illegal money. That's backed up by nothing. And it was the same reason why, and a lot of people may find this very difficult to understand or appreciate, but this is one of the reasons, the main reason, why 9/11 happened. You see, at the time, globally speaking, there was only 7 countries left without a Rothschild-controlled central banking system. There was only 7. The rest of the world each had one of their banking systems, the Federal Reserve. Those 7, now listen to this list very carefully: Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, North Korea, Libya, Cuba, and Sudan. Now, Sheila, what were the first major countries we attacked during 9/11?
Well, I know when we go back to the petrodollar scheme and the Fed Reserve, I mean, you got this, 100-year-old hen house covering the, fox over the hen house. I mean, since the good old J.P. luminary there crashed the Federal Stock Exchange, I mean, the very first one I can recall was them when Nixon, so Iraq, I think. Am I right?
Well, when Bush at 9/11, right, went against Iraq and then Afghanistan.
Right.
Now, interesting enough, it was 2 years later. There was only 5 countries that did not have a Rothschild-controlled central banking system, and the 2 that had suddenly changed, going by exactly what you just said, was Iraq and Afghanistan. Funny, they suddenly had Rothschild banking systems. So that left us Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. Well, interesting that if we were to go by today's date, there's only 3 more countries left in the world that do not have a Rothschild-controlled central banking system.
Right on.
That would be Iran, North Korea, and Cuba. Now, isn't it interesting how North Korea, when it was under Kim Jong-il, and now his, what is that, his nephew or his grandson?
Right.
The wannabe ruler. How they're making a lot of saber rattling, just as I warned everyone back in 2003 that you're going to hear a lot of saber rattling from North Korea, and I told them watch out for Iran, and I also warned them that Cuba will probably be in the last 3 because of back then it was still under the control of Fidel Castro. But now, if you notice, since 9/11, there's only 3 left. You see, 9/11 was not about a bunch of crazy jihadists. It was about the money. As I told everyone, you had to follow the money trail. And again, look at all the final nations that we've attacked now, Iraq and Afghanistan, the first 2 that now have a Federal Reserve System. And the others are going to fall in line the same way those other 2 had.
Wow. Well, and that would also probably explain was it 214? The biggest bill that ever was passed into law, the entire G20 signed on to the bail-in. I couldn't believe that, essentially making bank deposits, they could be used to capitalize the banks. You're no longer a depositor anymore. You'd be a non-secured creditor, a shareholder, getting back pennies on the dollar. That's amazing that they could do, with the Dodd-Frank, with Bretton Woods. You think of why did the biggest 6 banks spend $30 billion to pass that law? It's just absolutely the Ponzi scheme on steroids.
$30 billion is an astronomical number for you and I, but for them it's nothing, because going with what your caller had originally asked, if we go by the prophecies in the Book of Revelation and certain other places throughout the Bible, this world is going to end up under a one-world financial system, under a one-world religion, under a one-world, new world dictator. Now, and I still remember the timelines. You see, the Illuminati have a number of timelines in which certain events are supposed to occur, and there's quite a number of different timelines, some of them over 100 years in length. But going by one of the timelines that I still remember, between the year it's 2018 through 2022, the Illuminati plan on causing a major financial disaster in one of the countries of the world. Now, back then, I saw this back in 1970. Excuse me. And they didn't choose which country they were going to use yet. But they still had written down that they were going to cause a major financial disaster in one of those chosen countries. And it was going to be such a devastating financial disaster that it would finally force the nations of the world to come together and sit down for the first time in history and seriously start considering putting the world under a one world universal currency.
Yes. Well, let's start taking some calls, because I'm telling you, when I say a wall of calls, I mean a wall of calls. Area code 240, welcome to the program. What is your question?
Hi guys. How are you doing?
Very good.
Fine. How are you doing?
Good.
What's your name, hon?
My name's Tamara.
Hi, Tamara.
Hi. First of all, thank you. This show is great. I have a question about Freemasonry. So when someone joins the Freemasons, and I'm shocked when Christians join, there's a book, from what I understand, that they write their spouses and children's name in. So I was just wondering, because I know a Christian who's in that, what kind of authority does that give Satan over the names of those people in that book? What's the impact? Is it generational? It's and I don't know if this is correct, but I was told that when someone becomes a Freemason, that they write their name of their spouse and their children in a book, in a Freemason book.
Well, yes, they do. I know what you're talking about. Yes. Okay. Well, first of all, what was it? It was back in the early 1990s when the Southern Baptist Convention had addressed the issue as to whether or not a Mason, whether or not a Christian can become a Mason one way or another. Well, they assigned a man to the task to study it for 3 months. Well, what the Southern Baptist Convention didn't know at the time was the man who they assigned was a person who was joining the Masons. So you were not going to get a negative response from this person. He was biased. And because of that, the Southern Baptist Convention's final ruling was, well, you're going to have to make up your mind for yourself. I mean, I was positively livid at the time. If you want, Tamara, go to my website. It's now this is all lowercase, no apostrophes, okay? it's one long word. Put in www.itsAGodThingProductions777.com. What you want to do is open up the DVD section. You'll see the taskbar on the left-hand side of the front page. Look for the DVD called Magic, Mysticism, and Masonry. That DVD, now I will warn you, it's 2 DVDs, it's almost 4 hours long, but I can conclusively prove how the Masons, among other things, and I use more than 100 Masonic books that's in my own library, and I have their coded ones, mind you, in which they clearly state that they want nothing to do with Jesus Christ, that the name of Jesus Christ means nothing to them, and that if the name of Jesus Christ is ever brought up during any of their ceremonies or rituals, the person is supposed to be taken out and killed.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Should a Christian become a Mason? Oh, people, I've got thousands of reasons why not. And yet, the Southern Baptist Convention had the audacity to say, well, you're just going to have to make up your own mind. You know, those people are put there so that they can, supposedly send down their knowledge from their white pillared towers, and the best they could give us was, you're going to have to make up your minds for themselves. How dare they?
Well, we're going to take another caller. That's a great question by Tamara. And that's a very good segue. I was going to say to everyone, go to itsAGodThingProductions777.com. And I'm going to tell you, I can speak personally on this. There is information in there that is just absolutely mind-numbing, and it's incredible. The stuff that you have covered, the absolute explicit information, you have documents. Did I hear you correctly, Doc? You have a big library with volumes of Freemasonry books.
That's just on the Masonic book. Yes, I have hundreds of Masonic books. I have the coded ones. I have books from some of their greatest writers, like Manly P. Hall, Albert Pike, who was the head of the Southern Jurisdiction of all Masonry. As I said, I have the coded ones. I have more Masonic books. I'd have to sit down and actually count them all to give you, so I could know exactly how many I have.
Speaking of Albert Pike, let me ask you, why did the United States Congress back in April of 1898 authorize this private organization to place the statue of Albert Pike in public land in the U.S.? I mean, it is absolutely mind-blowing. He's a leader of the Freemasons in the southern states. I don't understand why they would ever put a statue in recognition of him in the United States, period.
Well, because he was also a Mason, a member of the Illuminati. And mind you, his was the only sector at the time that was not, a member of the government or the president. It was the only one that had absolutely nothing to do with the United States per se. The story goes, well, he was, a general in the Southern Army. Yeah, but didn't they lose?
Okay, back to the phone lines. Area code 253. What is your question or comment tonight?
Back to the phone lines. Area code 253.
Do you want to turn down your radio, please?
Oh, okay.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi.
Sheila. Hi, Doc. Hi, Doc.
Hey, how you doing?
This is Jack Groening from Lakewood, Washington. Hey, how you guys doing? Listen, hey, Doc, you was talking about that. You were explaining how the New World Order was gonna, how they were gonna explain the rapture, and you didn't get to finish that.
Okay, let me finish that.
I'll take my answer off the line. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Jack. So you see, how do the Illuminati, if they're so all-powerful and all this, explain the sudden vanishing, let's say 250 million people and children around the world? Well, let's get back to what I was saying. What if a couple of days later or a week later, NASA makes a worldwide announcement and says that they have spotted motherships in outer space that's headed towards planet Earth? Well, give it a week, 2 weeks later, another global announcement says that these motherships are now circumnavigating the world. And to prove it, they show these wonderful photos or such CGIs on the television. And to convince the public that this is absolutely true, well, those flying saucers that they've been working on and perfecting since Nazi Germany, they begin to start landing at various capitals and important places around the world. And these so-called little gray aliens, which are nothing but bioengineered creatures that the Illuminati finally was able to perfect using when they, I should say, resequenced the double helix code. They finally broke that during the mid-'80s. And these little gray aliens step out of these ships and they say, well, all those people that vanished, we took them up into our motherships because they needed re-education. You people are the truly enlightened individuals who will help guide and steer all of you into the golden age of humanity. And it's going to work flawlessly because it plays upon the human ego. Remember, they're going to say, you people are the chosen one. You're the enlightened ones. You're the ones that are going to help us, super advanced beings, steer man into the golden age of humanity.
Well, and I guess that could really explain why the Pope seems to be taking such a recent fascination with the fact that they're going to be baptizing aliens, and, that's all you hear now out of the Vatican is how they're going to be embracing
Yes, and
aliens.
Isn't it interesting that their telescope is called Lucifer?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I actually took the words out of my mouth. Well, 928, back to the phone lines, area code 928. Welcome to the program. What is your question or comment tonight?
Hi, Sheila. Hi, Doc. I have a question. I'm calling from Arno, Maine. And I have a question is, why is it that Satan and his fallen angels hate mankind so much?
One word, jealousy. You see, remember, angels, just like Satan, Michael, Gabriel, or any of the others, were created to serve God. Human beings, we were created to love God and for God to love us. You see, it's an interesting fact, hon, that when we look at the scriptures, does it not say in the Bible that we were created in the image of God?
It does say that. Yeah,
okay.
It does say that.
Now, there's more to that than people realize. You see, the reason you and I, Sheila, we can feel love, we can feel jealousy, we can feel anger, is because God felt them first. Right. Does God not say, I am a jealous God? Do we not find out that God is also an angry God, that he is a loving Father, and all these other emotions? Do we not know that his physical incarnation, Jesus Christ, is exactly as we are? Now, we have all these things, including our physical human construct, because God had them first. We were made in his image, both physically, spiritually, and with the soul, because he had all of these things before us.
That is a really great, that's a great response, and thank you for the question, caller. Area code 267, welcome tonight to the program. What is your question for Doc? Okay, do we have a caller there?
Hello?
Okay,
I guess he went the way of Dave.
He went the way of Dave. Okay, area code 406, welcome to the program tonight. What is your question, sir or madam? Area code 406, you're live. Well, that's crickets chirping. I don't know what is going on here tonight. Okay,
well, a lot of people don't wait.
They don't wait. Area code 916. What is your question for Doc tonight?
Hi, guys.
Hi.
My question is
we have a response. Yay!
Yay, a response. Thanks, 916.
Oh, hallelujah. In the name of King Jesus, we just thank you, Sheila and Doc. This is Lars from the fire zone of Northern California. I got a question for Doc about, well, you know, the hand of God protected our community. It was a miraculous miracle that no homes were lost in the area here, but we did, unfortunately, down Canyon lost, I think, about 10 or 15 homes. But we came out of the church service on the 14th, and the message was Daniel 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, and we came out.
Good
choice. I got a picture of this. Yeah, I got a picture of the smoke above the church, and then when I got to my house, they were evacuating. But anyway, with all that being said, everything is great. God is awesome. He's on the throne, and his wrath is on the land. Praise God.
Amen.
The question is about ISIL and Levant. Is Levant tied into Leviathan? And just one other quick thing. The Lord's been showing me about the principalities, powers, rulers, and the high wicked places, and I kind of put it in this perspective. The Antichrist spirit, Lucifer, the Leviathan, dragon, 7 heads, and the king of Babylon systems are coming to an end, and I'll just take it off air.
Okay, well, we know that the Babylonian system is coming back. Now, a lot of people, let me explain this. When we go by the Book of Revelation, we find that the Babylonian system, in this case, that's talking about the spiritual condition. In other words, what was the condition of Babylon way back when? Well, it was from Babylon that the very first religion on the earth was ever created. That religion is known as witchcraft. It was created through Nimrod and his mother, Semiramis. And this was the first system that actually proclaimed that there was other gods and that they should be worshipped and not the one and only true God. Well, that system, according to the Book of Revelation, is coming back, and I think anyone with half a brain could see that's coming back. As far as Leviathan having 7 heads, no, that's something completely different. The Leviathan that was mentioned in the book of Job, we know it could have been either a giant whale, which, well, giants are big. I mean, whales are big anyways, but either a whale or what some believe was a great white shark. Now, in either case, either one could actually swallow a human being whole. And if we go by the description of Jonah, when he was finally, I hate to say this, but he was thrown up, by whatever it was that kept him. He came out bleached white. Well, that's an interesting description, which only validates the story because medically speaking, and I can tell you from my medical background, that the amino acids and such that make the bile in most organic systems, animals, whatever you want to, have a corrosive effect. And, that's, of course, to help with the digestive system. But it would also explain why Jonah came out of the whale or the shark bleached white. So, as far as the Leviathan goes, that's what the Bible was talking about. Now, when we go to the Book of Revelation, which is chapter 13, picking it up in verse 1, where we find the seven-headed beast, well, that represents the seven great lands of the world, and there's 10 crowns and 10 horns, which represents the future 10 kingdoms of the world. The world is going to be divided into 10 supernations or 10 kingdoms, and the horns represent those who are going to be the kings of the nation. That's what you're referencing there.
Okay, well, I've got a question emailed in from a listener. Doc, what is your take on the great deception to put the Antichrist in power?
Well, the great deception right now is found in two basic systems. Well, actually three, but I'll break it down. One is that there is no God, but there are aliens and UFOs. The second, again, there is no God, but there is occult religions, and the third one is there is God, but there is our version of God. And when I say that, I'm talking about those spiritually wicked brothers and sisters of ours, if they are saved to begin with, who are mixing occult religions with Christianity, such as the Kundalini movement, the prosperity movement, and all those other movements that have absolutely nothing with biblical Christianity. It's those things that is actually bringing on the great deception that we were warned about in the Bible. And it warns us that it could deceive Christians if it was allowed to. Now, that's depending upon the individual if they allow it to. You see, Revelation chapter 3 tells us that you and I right now are living in the seventh and final church age known as Laodicea. Laodicea is going to be made up mainly of born-again children of God who are absolutely lukewarm. In other words, they're fence walkers. They won't commit to the left or to the right. And because of that, Christ said, I will spit you out of your mouth because you are no good to me. I can't use you.
Okay, we have another question. Oh, sorry, I just want to jump in here after you're done. When you finish that thought, let me know. We have a ton of people.
Go ahead.
Okay, one of the questions, this is 4 questions. I'll roll it into one, pretty much the same theme. Is Prince William the Antichrist, and can you distinguish between the Antichrist, the false beast, and the Antichrist, the false, I don't know what this person's typed there. Well, anyway, can you distinguish between the Antichrist, the false prophet, and the beast? Yes.
Okay. Well, no, Prince William is not the Antichrist, simply because there are identifying marks throughout the scriptures that tell us who the Antichrist is going to be. Now, we won't know the person by name, but we are given certain things to look for. One of them is whoever this is going to be, and this is in the book of Daniel, I believe it's chapter 11, we'll find out that the person is of Jewish heritage. Now, that doesn't mean he's practicing Judaism, but he does come from Jewish stock. Second, he's going to be a male. Third, he's going to be a virgin. Fourth, and this is what's interesting, he the Book of Revelation corroborates this part also. He's going to pretend to be religious, but he is not. He is of Satan. In other words, he is secretly worshiping Satan. And one other qualifying mark, it seems whoever this person is going to be is going to arise from one of the 10 common market European nations and literally have an overnight meteoric rise in the political realm, because this person, whoever he is seemingly going to have all the answers to all the problems. That's the person you're looking for.
Okay, excellent. That is very good information.
I don't think, just using common sense here, I don't think Prince William fits into any of that because, A, he's not a virgin.
Right.
B, he's not Jewish by my understanding. He would have been from the Germanic branch.
Well, the 12 tribes of Israel, we're assuming the 12 tribes, he would have been from one of those 12 tribes, would he have not?
Well, okay, this is where we get into rabbinical understanding or the teachings of the rabbis. You see, one of the original tribes, and I believe it was Manasseh, was cut off from the original 12 tribe because of some horrific sin they did and was replaced. Now, it is believed by these rabbis that the Antichrist is going to come from that tribe. And as I said, I believe, if I remember, it was Manasseh.
Okay, interesting. Well, that really explains some things. Okay, well, let's jump back to the phone lines. Oh, my goodness. Okay, area code 907. Welcome to the program. 907, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, go ahead.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
My question is for Doc. So it was nice that you brought the origins of the Illuminati through Adam Weishaupt. Can you please explain how the Jesuits started and what their ultimate goal was and why that occurred? I'll take
Okay, well, the order of the Jesuits started back in the 14th century under Ignatius de Loyola. And in the order of the Jesuits, there's supposed to be an individual who's supposed to be the head of this, and he's known as a black general. Now, a lot of people refer to him as the Black Pope, but that's a misnomer. He's really properly known as the Black General. Now, their goal, now, let me back up a little. During the mid-1850s, the Illuminati finally had absolute control over the Vatican itself. Ever since that time, and this includes the Jesuits now, ever since the 1850s, the Illuminati has had one of their persons in the Vatican at all times under the guise of a priest. Now, this individual is known as the Black Pope. Now, he's referred to as a Black Pope not because of his skin color or the color of the robes he wears. It's because he's always in the shadows. It's this individual who receives his orders and passes them on to the Pope from the Illuminati every single day, and it's been like that since the 1850s. And this is one of the reasons why the popes are following the Illuminati 7-part plan towards the creation of the New World Order, because one of those plans of the Illuminati calls for the abolition of all religions and to unify the world under a one-world occult system. This is what's going on and why the Pope is trying to unify the world under a one-world religion. If you notice, they no longer say we want a one-world Catholic system. No, they're simply calling for a one-world religion. And there's a big difference between both terminologies. And if you understand it, you know that world system they're talking about comes from, I should say, the order of the Illuminati itself.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask a question, another email question. Is Kenneth Copeland and Okay, what is this? Is Kenneth Copeland a Freemason, and was Billy Graham a Freemason? I'm combining a couple into one question.
Okay, I'm not sure with Kenneth Copeland, but Billy Graham at one time, from what I've seen, was a Mason. Now, if he became a Mason, it could have been when he was a young minister, and that would have put it back in, okay, let me think, Billy Graham, he's that old, should have back there, would have been around the 1950s. And back then, there was little to nothing known, shall we say, publicly about the Mason. Now, what's interesting about the teachings of the Mason is that they claim they can take a good man and make him better. Oh, that one alone makes me just want to, take Masonic heads and bash them together, because they have the audacity to say that they can take a good man, let's say a born-again Christian, and make him better. I think not. The only way that's going to happen is through God Almighty and through the person obeying God Almighty. Those people, as I said, if you look at their teachings, as I said, DVD 4, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you do, you know what, let me tell you something. I just remembered something, Sheila. When I wrote this series, the series, it's called Secrets of the Illuminati, I didn't know, and I had no plans or thoughts for this to happen. People have been using DVD 4, Magic, Mysticism, and Masonry. It's just in other DVDs in that series, right. And they're using them. They've been using them as witnessing tools, and literally speaking, if the half of what I've been told is true, literally speaking, thousands of Masons over the years, ever since DVD 4 was created, have been signing their letter of resignation and leaving the Masons, period.
Interesting. Well, back to the callers. Area code 304, welcome to the program tonight. What's your question for Doc?
Hey.
Welcome. Ask your question.
Are you there? Oh, okay.
I'm still here.
Yeah, yes. Great. Hi, Doc. Hi, Sheila. My question is, you were on a show a while back talking about Easter, and at the end of the show...
You mean on Doug and Joe, Hagmann and Hagmann report?
Yes, sir. And at the end of the show, I think Doug asked you a question, how far does this go back? And you said 1776.
Right.
So my question was, when the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, there was a constitutional convention in 1782, I think it was, and the symbol for that convention was the pyramid on the $1 bill, from what I've researched.
Correct.
So everyone who signed the Declaration of Independence, as far as I know, the only person that was at that constitutional convention that signed the Declaration of Independence was one person from Pennsylvania. I'm not sure what happened to everybody else, but most of them were killed. Is that
no. You see, of the 56 original signers of the Declaration of Independence, 53 of them were Masons. And Congress had ratified and accepted the Constitution, I believe finally it was in 1789, when they also assigned the two great seals of the United States of America. Now, the seal you're talking about, the Great Pyramid. Now, going by the law of the land, it's the Secretary of Defense who's supposed to hold onto the two great seals of the United States of America. Now, interesting enough, every single treaty, tariff, executive order, congressional bill, etc., by law must bear both those seals if the document is legal. Well, there's no such document in all of American history that bear both those seals, because the one with the eagle, with the breastplate holding the 13 arrows and the 13 leaf olive branch, that's been cast. That's a die. The other one doesn't exist because it's never been cast. It's never been made. Yet, when I was in the Order of the Illuminati, I saw both those seals on quite a number of Illuminati documents. You see, the long and short of it is, and again, this is on DVD 1. It's called The Arrival of the Antichrist. Those are not the two seals of the United States of America. Those are the two seals of the Order of the Illuminati. Now, since you've done your homework, you would have recognized that the seal that was first drafted and used in 1782, it was not an eagle. It was a phoenix bird.
Out of the ashes arises what, hey?
You know, and those have never been the two seals of the United States of America. They have always been the seal of the Order of the Illuminati, and I proved it on DVD 1. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. The only time people ever saw those seals, and the first time was back in 1933, when the Federal Reserve Act was passed, and you finally saw it on the back of the dollar bill. You never saw it before that, and I guarantee you'll never see it on any legal document in America, because only one part of that cast die exists, and that's the one with the eagle. I've challenged people for over 36 years to come up with one legal United States document that bear both those seals. Never once has anyone ever come up with anything, because there's no such thing as a legal document in America that does have both those seals. You'll see it in the Order of the Illuminati, but not in any American document.
Okay, well, hopefully that actually answers about 6 emails I got as well. Hopefully, if you have any other questions, email me. 603, area code, welcome tonight. Ask Doc your question.
Hi, Doc and Sheila. Thank you very much. You're such a blessing.
Thank you.
Doc, I have a 4-year-old grandson who I homeschool a Christian curriculum, and 50% of the time he lives in a home where a 16-year-old aunt is brainwashing him and trying to take away, say Jesus is bad, praying is bad, serve the devil. And Thursday in class, he started waving his arms and calling up dark spirits and demons. Now, I know how to fight this battle, but what I would like to ask is, if people could pray, this is an innocent little 4.5-year-old boy, and she's twisting his mind, and the state won't help. Daddy's eyes are glazed over, and Mama is just kind of, and you can literally feel the power of darkness trying to pull this little boy. He wants this little boy.
Right. First of all, let's consider one thing here. Fortunately, the little boy is 4 years old, so he's still in what's known as the age of accountability. Have you heard of that before?
Caller, have you heard of the age of accountability?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you see, he's still under God's divine protection. Okay?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Now, which means at this point he's not demonically possessed. What you need to do, I want you to consider the situation here. I believe you said it's a 16-year-old mother, correct?
No, it's a 16-year-old aunt. It's the mother's little sister.
Okay. What you need to do is sit that kid down, as I'm sure it has been done, but reiterate and reinforce the good side. God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. Teach him. You're going to have to start showing him now. It's a little early, but it seems like you better do it now before you'll hate yourself later. Start teaching him why those other things of an occult nature are very bad. How they will. Now, remember, you've got to explain this on his terms. That's why I said explain to him that it's bad, that bad people go to hell, and that, good people don't touch these things, and show him in the Bible why. Now, you have to address this, remember, as I said, on his level.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And what you also need to do pray over the little one. And, right. And when I say pray, what I was about to say is also make sure that you pray that nothing demonic will ever be able to communicate with this child.
Okay, well, thank you for that call. I mean, that is very important that we really need to be praying over our families. I mean, using anointing oil, covering with the blood of Jesus, that's very important, especially in this time that we live in, and I really appreciate that particular question. God bless that little boy. It's really tragic when we hear of stories like this. It's just heartbreaking. Area code 727. I'm just going to go. I'm not even going to do the break because we've got so many callers. It's unbelievable. 727, welcome to the program. What's your question for Doc?
Hi, I have two quick questions. I hear that the Illuminati...
I have one question. What's your name?
Okay. All
right.
What's your name? Where are the Nephilims now? If they're on Earth, they're not giants. I can't make that connection.
First of all, hon, what's your name?
Marie.
Hi, Marie. Now, Nephilims, okay? Yes, if we go by the Hebrew translation, there was two words in particular, Nephil and Rapha. Both words denoted to mean something that's huge, something that's big. In our language, we would say, my goodness, that's huge or that's giant, correct?
Yeah, she's taken it off there, Doc.
Oh, okay. So you see, this is where the word Nephilim is derived from. Now, we must understand that a lot of people are saying that, well, the earth is going to be covered with Nephilims at the end. Well, that's not what the Bible says. You see, and they get this from using two particular passages of Scripture. One is in Matthew chapter 24, where it says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be with the coming of the Son of Man. And then I believe it's in the book of Luke where it says, as it was in the days of Lot. Now, there's a practice that's taught in every single Bible college and university. It's known as hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is a biblical practice in which whatever is in the passage stays in proper context. You cannot add or subtract from it. It is what it is. Now, when we go to those two passages in particular, the topic of discussion was the rapture. It was not about giants. There's nothing even in those passages that you could even infer. It's talking about giants. It was never mentioned in any of those verses. Yet these people are saying that's what it's talking about. Well, that is not proper according to biblical hermeneutics. They're not keeping the passages in context. They insert what they want to insert and say, well, this is what it really means. Well, that's not what it's saying. So, and if we look at the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel, which clearly describes the end times during the tribulation period, there's not one mention of giants. So, no, there are no giants as far as biblical hermeneutics goes and as far as a prophecy goes that will be around during the tribulation period.
Okay, I have a question for you from an email here. If you wish to answer this, Doc, have you been approached or asked by current Illuminati members on how to accept Jesus to change their course of history or destiny?
Okay. I can answer that I have to answer that in two fashions. One, those who have tried to kill me in the past, a number of them, in the first 10 years, shall we say, a number of them had physically tried to come up to me and kill me. Well, I have, first of all, two things on my side. One is God, and that's enough right there. If God says it's not my time to go, then I'm going nowhere. But second of all, back then, I was a lot younger, and I have a black belt in Shaolin Kung Fu.
Okay, that's your protection, huh?
Well, it used to be. I'm a lot older now, and I don't move as fast as I used to.
Okay.
But in either case, if I was completely relying on God. Now, as far as other people in the Illuminati to get them out? Yes. We have managed to get out a number of other people in the Illuminati, and I'm not at liberty to say who, how, or why. I mean, the why, it's easy, but I can't explain the rest of it because it would give away what we're doing. But I can tell you this much. A number of them, by the grace of God, have left, and they leave as born-again children of God.
Wonderful. That is very impressive. 309, welcome to the program. What is your question for Doc tonight? And please turn down your radio.
Okay.
Hello. What is your question?
Yes. Could you talk about the Georgia Guidestones and their new little itty-bitty stone that says 2014 on it?
Right. Good question. Okay, I'm going to take that off air, caller, because I'm getting a lot of static. But actually, that was a question I got emailed to as well, Doc. So, yes, please do humor us.
Okay. I was shooting the Georgia Guidestones a number of years ago when we created DVD 7 and 8 in my series. That one's called The Illuminati's Plans for 2012 and Beyond. The Georgia Guidestones supposedly was paid for by a mysterious unknown individual known as R.C. Christian, okay? And the Guidestones, there's, 10 major megalithic blocks there, and one of them in particular has what some people refer to as the New 10 Commandments. The first one calls for a reduction of the world's population down to 500 million. Now, that alone right there told me it was not Illuminati. The Illuminati plans calls for the reduction of the Earth down to 1/3 of the present population. The Earth is a huge place. There's a lot of machinery that has to be operated, and you're just not going to be able to run everything the way it is right now with only 500 million people. It's not going to work. There's too much infrastructure and everything else, especially technological advances in computers and other areas, that we need more than 500 million people to keep everything going. That's just, long and short of it right there.
Well, so where do you think they came from then? Who's behind the Georgia Guidestones?
As far as my understanding, the truth of it, it would have been erected by the Rosicrucians.
The Rosicrucians, okay.
Yes.
Which is a very questionable group as well. I mean, they're...
Well, interesting enough because it was paid for supposedly by a man named R.C. Christian, right?
Right.
The original founder was Christian Rosenkranz, Christian. The R.C. would have been the Rose Cross or the Rosicrucians.
Well, why haven't we mowed those down with a bunch of backhoes? What are they still doing in Georgia?
It's an interesting anomaly, and a lot of people actually go see it. When I was filming there on the Guidestone, me and my director, Corey, we had to stop shooting quite a number of times because of all the people that was coming back and forth to see it.
Well, I'm going to take 530 area code, and then I've got another question for you from an emailer. 530, welcome to the program tonight. What is your question?
Doc, this is John.
John, how you doing?
You promised me if I would call in the next time you're on the show, we could talk about the rapture.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
Talk about the rapture. Talk about.
I know, but you're going to have to be a lot more specific than just that. That could take up a week.
Is your question around the pre-trib, post-trib? What's your question, sir?
Let's go with the pre-trib.
Okay. Well, I'm going to fire a question in here, too. Can I just say, Doc, that is probably one of the biggest questions that Doug and I and many others get is, there's a lot of people on the pre-trib fence, there's a lot of people in the mid-trib fence, and there's a lot of people that talk about the post, So, I mean, that is really something we definitely have to have some major debate of a panel on a bunch of pastors, because nothing boils my blood more than this fight. So I'd love to hear your take on it.
Well, interesting enough, I've got a DVD coming out at the end of October. It should be around the end of October, according to my director, because it's in the post-production process right now, called Which Rapture Are We Waiting For? And so I don't take up any real time right now on a debate that everyone is going to, may be inflamed about. Go to my website and look in the section that's called It's in the Bible. In that section, there's an article called The Rapture. Read it. Now, I will caution you. I didn't mean for it to be as long as it was, but I really needed to cover the whole of it. And it's 24 pages long. But going back to that DVD for a section, do you know David Schnitzker over at Southwest Radio Bible Ministries?
Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with him.
Okay. He wrote an endorsement for that coming DVD. He called it the magnum opus of all rapture explanations, if you can believe it.
Wow. Well, so when is that released again, Doc?
It should be ready, according to my director, at the end of October.
Well, good,
now,
because we're going to have a big debate.
No. You see, we have what's known as a scientific method, in which we can prove if a fact is a fact is a fact. Now, going by the scientific method, under the same conditions, the same results must be yielded. This way we know through repetition, whatever happens is a fact. It's going to happen like that all the time, no matter what. Do you know that there is a definitive pattern in the Holy Scriptures that tells, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's actually pre-trib? Now, a lot of people are going to jump up and down and say, no, it's mid, no, it's post. Well, by the way, mid-tribulation has been replaced by the wrath of God now. Some people say, well, this is the wrath. Fine, call it whatever you want.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, most people get the rapture completely wrong because they don't even know what makes a rapture a rapture. I mean, let me ask you the same question I've asked literally hundreds, if not thousands, of our brothers and sisters. The question is, Sheila, what is a rapture?
Well, it's interesting because,
No, don't give me a dissertation. Answer the question. What is a rapture?
Well, you'd think it's a taking out, a taking out. That's when I study out that word. It's a removal.
Okay. That's one of the definitions of it. Now, it's interesting. When we go to the Greek, in the New Testament, there's, I believe it's 11 passages with 17 mentions of the word hapezo, which is we translate into the Latin, which is the word rapio, which when we translate into the King's English is rapture. Now, problem is that's not close enough, hon. That's not even good enough.
Well, isn't it true though that the word rapture?
Let me finish.
Okay.
A rapture is so simple to understand that even the apostles, and the apostles were the only ones appointed by God who had the authority to make a doctrine a doctrine. They didn't even make the rapture a doctrine. It was so straightforward, so simple, they said anyone will understand this. A rapture is based upon three and only three little concepts. God physically removes those whom he declares to be righteous outside of his impending judgment. That's it. There's nothing more to a rapture than God physically removing those whom he declares to be righteous outside of his impending judgments. Now, when we take the understanding of what constitutes a rapture applied to the Scriptures, there is beyond any shadow of a doubt a definitive pattern that not only screams of pre-tribulation, but there are literally, I don't even remember how many different examples in the Old Testament alone in which there were raptures in the past. But it's because we don't recognize what makes a rapture, that there is all this confusion and division. And this is why, among other things, the debate rages on. Believe it or not. Now, a lot of people will say, well, this was the invention of John Darby when in 1861, after Margaret MacDonald had her vision. Well, that's a lie to begin with. You see, Margaret MacDonald in 1830, a young girl of Scottish-Irish descent, did supposedly have these visions. But, and here's a big but, ladies and gentlemen, you're not being told the whole of what she said. Those people who present the post-tribulation rapture either don't know the whole of the story or they're outrightly lying. Because when you put in the whole of what she stated in her vision, there's absolutely no doubt her visions were post-tribulation, not pre-tribulation. So it was not in 1830 where supposedly pre-tribulation rapture began. Second of all, it was not John Darby who stole the idea and came up with the word rapture. That's another lie. In this new DVD, I can conclusively prove, and I created a reverse timeline from today's date going all the way back to the time of Christ himself. We go through all the ancient literature, not all of it, but I used literally dozens, and I mean, ladies and gentlemen, dozens of ancient texts, the original text, to prove, if you follow this timeline all the way backwards to the time of Christ, every single one of those ancient texts always stated it was pre-tribulation, never mid, never post. And part of the challenge I've always put to people, you create that type of same reverse timeline and show me it's post and mid, and they'll never be able to do it. Because if you've read the ancient texts, as I have, and I've read most of the ancient texts that I can think of, they always spoke of pre. Never once did they ever say mid or post. It never was mentioned until Margaret MacDonald in 1830, when her visions said it was post, not pre. But there's also as far as the origin of the word rapio goes, ladies and gentlemen, that's so easy. Just go back to 323 AD, when rapio was used in the Latin translation of the Bible. The word rapio is the word for rapture. It's in the Bible, the Latin translation. And a lot of people will say, well, the word rapture doesn't appear in the Bible. Actually, it does. But second of all, the word Bible doesn't appear in the Bible. Does that mean suddenly the Bible is not the Bible because that word is not in it?
Well, I guess the whole point. Yeah, I guess the whole point is if you don't have a ticket, you'll never get on, no matter what time the bus leaves, right? So be prepared at any time.
So the whole of the crux of the DVD is to show the whole of the truth, using all the ancient literature I had used to prove to you that there was a definitive pattern there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the truth of the matter is, whether you believe what's in my DVD or not, what matters is, if you're saved, you're going to go to heaven.
Yeah, amen. Because really that is the quintessential piece of that, and I think people need to stop nitpicking obviously the time is kind of irrelevant if God says no man knoweth the hour. So I just cannot get over
one thing quickly. The reason this division happened is the same reason the Illuminati had created all the different perversions of the Bible, the different translations, so that it could keep us divided. You see, one of the greatest tricks Satan ever pulled on God's kids was when he created denominational titles.
Right.
You see, if you belong to this denomination, well, you can't be one of us. You belong to that. Or, well, no, I'm sorry, I can't see things your way. You're of this religion, or whatever. You know what? and this is why I don't take on a denominational title, because once you do, you set up denominational walls.
Good point. Well, let's try to get back to some phone lines because we've got a half an hour in the program.
Okay, wait. One last thing. You see, this is an old military ploy called divide and conquer. Keep the Christians separated and arguing by denominational title. Keep them separated and arguing by creating more than 100 different versions of the Bible. Keep them divided and arguing about pre, post, or mid, and Satan wins, because we are not together as a united family fighting for the souls of men.
That is a very good point. Okay, well, let's get back to phone lines. Area code 330. Welcome to the program. What is your question? Area code 330. What is your question?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was talking to my dog. Hey, Doc.
You were talking to who?
I was talking to my little Rosie here before I realized I was online here.
Well,
on the
I would
phone.
prefer you talk. Well, hon, I would prefer you talk to me.
Oh, God bless you. Listen, hey, Doc, I have a comment for you, and if you could tell me something. I live around 3 Masonic temples here. I mean, they're very close together. I just recently noticed, one's across a hospital. I just recently noticed they put out this huge, on both buildings, they put out this huge, their symbol, you know, the Masonic symbol, and then right next to it, yes, yeah, and then right next to it, they put out a 5-pointed star that that's the Eastern Star. That's the female auxiliary group of the Masons. Okay, yeah, they just put all this stuff outside the building. These buildings have been there for years. And I was just wondering if you commented on that. My thoughts were, oh, yeah, they're out in the open and they want people to know. I mean, we put
them out like that, hon, because among other things, they're recruiting. You see, now, they're not supposed to proselytize or recruit. And, you know, they're not supposed to do that. But I can tell you from past experience, 3 times Masons, who obviously didn't know who I was, you know, came up to me and asked me if I would like to become part of the Masonic Lodge.
Yeah. We have a lot of that around where I live, in Akron, Ohio. Let me tell you, there is a lot.
They're recruiting, hon. That's exactly what they're doing by putting out. They're saying Masons are welcome here, the Eastern Stars welcome here, and you can join. That's what they're doing.
I'll be darned. And I have to tell you this very quickly. My thoughts about the Antichrist would be a Sabbatean. I've been studying that. I've been studying a lot of things, you know, from CERN all the way around the board. You know, everything is interconnected. And I'll tell you what, you cannot stop connecting the dots. It's a never-ending connecting dots. But why I say the Sabbatean, because they're Jewish and Muslim, you know, from back when. And, you know, upon with the Kabbalah, you know, where it all started with the Kabbalah. Now, the Sabbatean has the Jewish heritage, and it's always and they're connected with the Kabbalah. So that's where I see that coming from. You know, I could sit and talk all night, you know, I mean, with everything that's going on.
I'm supposed to be doing that.
Well, we appreciate that. We want to get through to some other calls, too, so I'm going to take area code 765. Welcome to the program tonight. You're on the air.
Excuse me.
Hello?
Am I on?
Yes.
I had a question for Doc. Yes. It goes with a bloodline, with a Rothschild, and with present day, with somebody that had ties with their lineage connected with Hitler, or actually connected with Joseph Mengele. Anyways, there was a person I come across helping, and they've got a long lineage with this. They're not... American name's not that, but they're connected. Do you have any take on that? Or is there anything to that?
Well, as far as Hitler being connected to the Rothschilds, actually he is. He's from their bloodline. A lot of people don't know that, historically speaking, about Adolf Hitler, but he is related to the Rothschild family.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's the Rothschild family right now that heads the Order of the Illuminati. Right now, let me think, the eldest son is Evelyn de Rothschild. So Evelyn de Rothschild, he's the head of the Order of the Illuminati. And in my day and age, that would have been Baron Philippe de Rothschild. But there's no doubt of it. Hitler was related to the Rothschild family.
Yeah, that's very good information for us, and thank you for clarifying that with some of the emails too. Area code 772. What is your question tonight for Doc? Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Doug and Sheila. I was looking at the Walt Disney symbol you were talking about, and I never knew that. But I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it or not. I was looking at the logo of some of the other ones, and there are people, like they're on steps, and I'll take my answer offline. Could you tell me what that represents?
People on steps, hon? I have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, I need more than people on steps to go by here.
Yeah,
I don't know what the question is.
Yeah, there's some people that are on each side. There are 6 people. There are 3 on each side, and if you look at the tops with the flag, if you just they got the people there on some of them, and then they pick the people away, and all you see is like the gaps in between the flags, but they're actually people's legs that are coming down those steps.
Hon, you're going to have to send me that picture. If you want, send it to my email. It's docmarquis777@yahoo.com. Okay?
Okay.
But right
that
now,
sounds
I have
good.
no idea what picture you're talking about.
Well, speaking of steps, one of the questions I have is what can Doc please get into the symbolism around the Washington Monument, and also what is it with the 33 steps? And then I don't know what it's the rest is illegible. So, do you have any comments on some of the
Well, I'm not sure what
architecture?
33 steps we're talking about, unless they're talking about masonry. But with the Washington Monument, that is interesting, very interesting. You see, there is above ground 555 feet exactly. That makes up the Washington Monument. Now, a lot of people mistakenly converts that over to inches. And as I recall, I think that comes out to be, what is that? 6,660 inches. Well, that's not what it's referencing. You see, you're close, but you're not dead on. As I stated, there's 555 feet above ground. But what most people don't realize is that most obelisks were built on a 1-to-6 ratio. In other words, a sixth of it would be in the ground, so it would be stable. And I checked with one of the tour guides there. There is exactly 111 feet of the obelisk that is built underground. So 111 and 555 feet is 666 feet exactly. And that obelisk makes up part of the occult symbols that connect directly to lot 666, if you remember we had already mentioned.
Right. Interesting.
Right. Now, the obelisk itself is actually a giant heliocentric sun calendar. You see, it works as a sundial. Now, if you look at the one in, let's just say in the Vatican Square, that is what's known as Cleopatra's Needle. Now, look at the symbol itself, and you have to reference Vatican City or Vatican Square. You're going to see that has 8 sets of double lines around it. Now, in the occult world, there's 8 times, and I'm talking about in most of the occult religions, including the Illuminati, there's 8 times in which human sacrifice is a must. There's no if, and, buts, or anything about it. It's a must. Now, there are 8 sets of double lines that surround the obelisk in front of the Vatican. Whenever the shadow of the obelisk falls in between any one of those sets of double lines, it's time for a human sacrifice. That, as I said, is a giant heliocentric sundial. That's the secret behind the obelisk. It was used to measure time. And among other things, in the occult world, it was used to measure sacrificial times.
Okay, well, speaking of sacrificial, I've got lots of these emails. What is Doc's take on the whole Bohemian Grove situation?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I could spend forever on this. Before I do, just so you can see the whole of it, because this is going to be another one of those. It's 2 DVDs, 4 hours long. DVD 11 is called Dark Rites and Rituals at the Bohemian Grove. You can see it on my website. It's a God Thing Productions 777.com. Go there, look in the DVD sections. You'll see Dark Rites and Rituals of the Bohemian Grove. Now, a lot of people have asked me, is that an Illuminati thing? Oh, yes. Oh, I can tell you right now, from my day and age in the Illuminati, that is what I always call the Illuminati summer camp. It was taken over by the Illuminati shortly after it was started. And one of the things people always ask me about, is there an owl there? What's with the owl? Well, there is, in the very heart of the Bohemian Grove itself, excuse me, a 40-foot owl that the people are worshiping at. There is definitely an occult, and specifically an Illuminati ritual that is being performed there every summer. It's known as the cremation of care. Now, what I did, among other things, I took the ceremony, the wording verbatim of the creation of care ceremony, and I deciphered it line by line in that DVD so I could prove conclusively, and I show you step by step, how beyond any shadow of a doubt that is a genuine Illuminati ritual that they're performing. There's no doubt of it. Once you go through that section in those DVDs alone, you will find out there's no doubt it is genuine. It's Illuminati. It is one of their main ancient rituals. But among other things, these are some of the most powerful power brokers in the world that's meeting there. We're talking presidents, senators, princes, prime ministers, premiers, all over the world, businessmen, industrialists, all meeting there and shaping the course of human history. They choose presidents there, among other things. They have started and created some of the most secretive projects in human history. One of the big projects that come from the Bohemian Grove was the Manhattan Project. You remember that, Sheila, the Manhattan Project?
Yes, I do.
And then there was the Star Wars Initiative under Ronald Reagan. That was started there at the Bohemian Grove. There is so much going on there, ladies and gentlemen. That's why it took me 2 DVDs in 4 hours just to explain some of it.
Okay, let's get back to the phone line. 704 area code. Welcome to the program. What is your question for Doc?
Good evening.
704, yeah, go ahead.
Hi there.
Hi there. Glad you're on tonight, both of you. It's great. But thinking about this pre-trib rapture, and if we're out of here before a major SHTF, how much worse will it have to be than it already is, according to Matthew 24 and Jesus' words about the time of the end, and there's going to be some martyrs, according to the word, and how is all this going to play out, Doc?
Well, okay, let's answer this by what you asked. How much worse is it going to be? Well, for us, before the tribulation period hits, it's going to get a lot worse than what it is. Now, as far as in the tribulation itself, it's going to be so bad. Let's not forget, there's a passage in Revelation that completely states that people are going to be running to the mountains, hiding in their caves, and begging for the mountains to fall upon them so that they can die. But death will not be allowed to consume them at that point. That's how bad it's going to be. People are begging to die. Now, the martyrdom is on a horrific scale. Sheila and I, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, before I get into this. Few times, very, very few times in this life have I ever started a conversation with a person I had no idea about, let alone known who they were, and felt as if I'd known them for 50 years. Sheila's one of those people. I could sit down, and Sheila and I, we're going to pick up, Lord willing, one of these days when we meet for the first time, we're going to be talking as if we've known each other our entire lives. That's how I feel about Sheila. This is the first time I've ever done a show with her. You know, I didn't know her from Adam, as the old expression goes, but I can tell you right now, that's how comfortable I felt when Sheila and I was talking earlier. But to get back to what we were saying, the martyrdom is going to be rampant. It's going to be worldwide. Revelation 20, verse 4 tells us that people are going to be beheaded because they witness for Christ. Now, there is beyond any shadow of a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, an insidious part of the Illuminati plan that's going on right now in front of your eyes. And Lord willing, for those of you who have listened to me before, you know what I'm about to say. We have concentration camps or POW camps. Some people want to call them FEMA camps. Call them whatever you want. A number of the signs, and I provide, again, the photographic evidence. I will show you the truth. We have almost 1,000 POW camps that's fully built, fully operative in the United States of America right now. They don't hold anyone. We also know, and again, throughout my DVD series, ladies and gentlemen, in DVD 6, I will show you the FEMA coffins. Literally, there's one picture in particular. I put it. I think it was in that one, DVD 6. That one's called "The Illuminati is Fulfilling Bible Prophecy," in which, just in one photo, there's a field that contains approximately 1 million FEMA coffins. These coffins can hold approximately 6 people apiece. And among other things, you look at these photos, these concentration camps, you will see the double barbed wire is facing inside, not outside. Now, my question is, why do we have, and mind you, I do have documents from Congress and other places that verify the existence of these concentration camps and what their purpose is. My question is, why do we have 1,000 concentration camps? Why do we have literally millions upon millions of FEMA coffins? And don't even get me started on the guillotines, the portable guillotines that are being shipped throughout the United States on UN, United Nations trains. Why do we have so many concentration camps if we don't have any war going on in the United States? Unless they're planning to cause some sort of war to happen on the United States. You see, concentration camps, by definition, concentration camps or a POW camp is meant to house prisoners.
Right.
Guess who the prisoners, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be in the near future? It's going to be people like me, Sheila, and others who are whistling. What is the term? Whistleblowing the truth. Anyone who dares to stand up against the government, anyone who dares to speak out about salvation of Jesus Christ, that's what those places are for. But I can tell you also, ladies and gentlemen, many of those POW camps can literally execute up to at least 50,000 people a day. I know.
Yeah,
I saw one of the first concentration camps built in America, and that was in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And I saw that back in 76.
That's really Auschwitz on steroids, isn't it, that concept?
I'm sorry, what was that?
That really is Auschwitz. Yeah, that's Auschwitz on steroids, isn't it?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You see, let me explain something here. Most people may not understand. The Illuminati never do anything on a large scale until they've done it on a smaller scale first. That's why they created the Nazi regime. They experimented there. They tried everything in the book to see if and how it would work. It came out flawlessly. And ladies and gentlemen, if you think Obamacare, with all its regulations, is a new thing, then you don't know your history. Because, you see, Hitler had his own, shall we say, Obamacare. It was known as T4. It was a secret project under Adolf Hitler himself. You look at T4, compare it to Obamacare, it's almost the exact same thing. All that, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to look at, compare Obama's regime to Adolf Hitler, I just released not too long ago DVD 13 in the series. It's called Dictators of the Illuminati. You've got to look at that one. Most of the stuff I've got in there about Barack Obama, his past, and other things, I test drove this. Most people told me they didn't know half of what they just learned about Obama in that DVD. And I mean the truth about this guy. But, let me tell you right now. The Illuminati, after they try something on a small scale, then they'll bring it up to the large scale. And that's what they're doing in the United States of America right now. You are seeing the reemergence by any other name of the Nazi regime in America right now. Learn the history of Nazi Germany, and you'll better understand what's going on in America right now.
Wow. Okay. Well, 580, welcome to the program. What is your question for Doc?
Hey, Sheila. First, let me say that I really appreciate you subbing in on the show. I always enjoy your conversations, particularly on the weekend. My question for Doc is that, I have a friend. He's my best friend. He's been a friend since second grade. I trust him with my life. He's a Mason. His great-grandfather was a Mason. His grandfather was a Mason all the way down the line. And his son has recently joined the lodge. And we talk about this stuff quite frequently. And he is informed. He understands the different things that are associated with that. Knows a lot about the Illuminati. And I believe him to be a good Christian man. He's a Quaker as well. And I know Doug talks about the lie being different at every level, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't know. Sometimes I know the person, and I look at them, and I have a hard time believing that, he is part of this cult as it is described. What would you say to that?
Okay, I can understand your hesitancy because, you see, one thing is, let me just make a quick comparison. Would you say George Washington was an evil man?
The caller is off air now, Doc.
Okay, well, Sheila, Would you say George Washington was an evil man?
Off the top of my head, I would say that that's debatable.
Well, actually, he wasn't. He was a God-fearing man. And by all accounts and historicities, he was also a good man. But at the same time, he was a Mason. He was a third-degree Mason. He made it all. He was in the Blue Lodge, the first 3 degrees: the entered apprentice, the accepted apprentice, and then the master Mason. So he was a master Mason. Now, most Masons, 95% of them, haven't a clue what's going on within their own temple. They don't. It's only once you get to the 33rd level that you know the full truth of what's going on in the Masonic Lodge. Now, one thing to your last caller, I would question your friend about. You see, Masonic writings, and again, this is in DVD 4. I will show you every single book. I will quote the passage, the page, the author, everything. So many of the passages in the Masonic books talks about that the only way these people can get to heaven is through being faithful Masons and following the teachings of Masonry. This is how they claim a person gets to heaven. This is their own writings now. They never say salvation is found in Jesus Christ. They never say that Jesus Christ died for your sins so you could go into heaven. The fact of the matter is, the writings of the Masons completely state, if anyone mentions the name of Jesus Christ during any of their ceremonies, they're to be taken out of the lodge immediately and killed. Their version of getting to heaven, and again, to your caller, Sheila, I swear by this, in the Masonic books. Now, this is in DVD 4, Magic, Mysticism, and Masonry. They state the only way to heaven is by following the teachings of Masonry. Now, that completely contradicts that Word of God and all the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, I would ask your friend, whoever that last caller was, ask your friend, how, according to Masonic teachings, do you get to heaven? They will not tell you it's through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, you and I both know that's straight from the Bible. That's straight from the Word of God. That tells us how we're going to get to heaven. Take the gift of salvation. Ask your friend about that. Ask him this question: how does a Mason get to heaven? Don't go beyond that. Just ask him, how, according to Masonic teachings, does a person get to heaven? And judge for yourself when they tell you it's through their teachings and not through the teachings of Jesus Christ. I would make your decision upon Masonry after that.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a couple more calls before the end of the program. And interestingly, I have 3 calls from the area code 267. So I'm going to take 267-385. Welcome to the program tonight. You're on the air.
Hello. Hi, Sheila. It's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. What's your question?
I'm just wondering, what is the connection with Freemasonry in Philadelphia? This is where I live, and we have the Christ First Church on Delaware Avenue, and it seems like the Freemason, they got like a temple down there off of, I think it's Broad Street. I think there's some sort of connection. I just wanted to ask Doc if he knew anything about that.
Okay, we'll ask him.
Okay, it could very well be that there's a high concentration there because, you see, a lot of the letters from Albert Pike, the head of the Southern Jurisdiction of Masonry during the mid to the late 1800s, a lot of the letters of Albert Pike was held in a Philadelphia museum. So it could be that reason alone why there's a heavy concentration of Masonry there, because those letters would have been considered sacred to them.
Well, I might as well follow suit and take the next 267. Maybe they're from Philly too. Welcome to the program, 267-596. You're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing? This is Eric. You can hear me?
Hi, Eric.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just been following the show. I got cut off a little earlier. Was interested in talking about the alien situation, and I had a few things to mention. My grandfather lived in Puerto Rico, and he said off of a naval base that there'll be a tribe of like gnomes. Gnomes. There you go. The gnomes, little short people that
Right.
they come off. This certain base at night, and they used to go around there, go swimming at night, and in the bushes, and this tribe of gnomes will follow you wherever you're at. Like, they're little people. I don't want to say they're little grays, but they're well known up there in Puerto Rico. And
hold on, Eric. Let me explain something quickly. You see, we go throughout history, various cultures and communities throughout the world. We find out that there are various stories of mythological creatures that are short, that appear out of nowhere, and supposedly they're advanced or they have magical powers and things like that. And this is the same explanation we're getting with the little grays.
Okay, well, he's off air now, and there's a good movie title, Gnomes, Drones, and Clones. Anyway, let's go to the next caller. I don't know who this is. It says restricted, but welcome to the program. I think you might be calling in from Skype. What is your question?
California.
Hello? Yeah,
I'm from California.
Go ahead. Yep, California, go ahead. You're
on.
I
just one question, make it brief. My wife, she's a charismatic Catholic, and she always mentions about John Paul II. Why was he taken out if he was involved in the plan with the Antichrist? And there's a lot of charismatics that I don't think they're involved in Masonic beliefs. And also there is a FEMA camp, I think a prison being built east of Yuma. It's already built there, and one east of us here on the border, Mexico and California. But getting back to
if you could get photos of that, send it to me. I'll put it with the rest of them. Just tell me the location, the city, the state. This way I can add it to the archives and show everyone what's going on here. Now, as far as John Paul II being murdered, or if that's what I understand, I never understood that he was bumped off or anything.
Interesting. Wow. Well,
I know one particular pope. I can't remember his name. He reigned only for 33 days. He was the shortest reigned pope in history. I think that was in the mid-50s. Or was it? No, it could have been the 70s, early 70s or late 60s. What had happened, that particular pope, he was actually going to clean house. He found out about the huge money laundering that was being done through the Vatican, through the mafia, then through the Illuminati, and he was going to blow the whistle on the whole thing. He was literally cleaning house. He had already kicked out a number of papal priests in certain position and everything. And what had happened? The man, I believe, he was on digitalis for a heart condition. And he had been on this medication for years. Now, the story goes that he accidentally took an overdose and died.
Of course he did, accidentally, right? Accidentally
poisoning is the preferred method of the Illuminati. You see, there's an ancient practice in the Illuminati. It's known as Sia. It comes from the Latin. It means poisoning. The Illuminati are so skilled in alchemy, and I can tell you about alchemy. I learned this also. When it comes to certain poison, they can keep a person on the brink of death indefinitely with certain poisons. This has always been the preferred method of execution, and when it comes to poisoning, they love to make it look like a heart attack.
Well, Doc, that is fascinating, and I'm really sorry to all the other callers. I'm going to take one more call. Area code 562. You've been holding quite a long time. What's your question? You're the final caller. Go ahead, 562. 562.
Hey, how you doing, Doc?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey, I've been a target of the Illuminati, Freemasons, all these secret societies my whole life. My family.
Why? Why?
Well, my bloodline, I think, my great uncle was Prime Minister of England, William Gladstone. My real grandfather was a banker who built Vegas for the mob. He was a Shriner Illuminati. And then my grandmother, she divorced him when I was born and named me. Numbers are really important. So I'm a real 22. It's kind of the opposite of a Masonic 33. I'm a warrior for God, which I didn't know until I was 40. But my question is this. I think the understating thing in the country is America is, by my assessment, about 80% secret society. There's numeric language communications and everything. I made a movie called The Numeric Language on YouTube. And, it's in everything. All your sports stars, 32, 9/11, all that stuff. Could you talk a little bit about the numbers? I
can't get into the numbers too deeply because of we're running out of time. But it goes back to what I was saying, that the Illuminati will always mark their territory. You have to know symbols. You have to know the correct numerology and gematria. But I guarantee you, once you understand those for what they really are, you will never see. It goes back to what I tell everyone. If you don't know it, you'll never see it. Once you know it, you'll never miss it. This is the heart and soul of how the Illuminati mark their territory. It's through the numbers and through the symbols. It's always been like that. Now, I get into some of this in DVD 1, that's Arrival of the Antichrist. But very quickly, I will say for all your other callers that we won't be able to get to. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to, you can call me tomorrow. I promise I'll be home. I will purposely make sure to stay home all day long tomorrow. Call me at 402-228-9476. Now that's 402-228-9476. Or if you want, you can email me at docmarquis777@yahoo.com. That's docmarquis777@yahoo.com. As I said, I will purposely make sure to stay home tomorrow all day long to answer your questions.
Well, Doc, I just want to say in the waning minute of the program, you are absolutely a wealth of information. Your website, again, is just stunning to me. It's just got so many incredible tools, so much incredible information. It's a God Thing Productions, 777.com. Folks, please go to the DVD streaming. You can watch incredible information there. And, Doc, it's really incredible, the information you've given, and it's very